can see it in your eyes. Lonely in the corner, waiting for somebody to come and save you from the cold of night. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye? Quiet like the ocean, with the rumble running deep. This is how I see you, when you hide your feels from me. Why you heavy-hearted? Cut the silence, talk to me. Release your mind, get what you need. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye?
Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. And even when it seems like there's no way out, we'll grow a little closer. We water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I won't hold back. I won't hold back. I won't hold back. 'Cause we're better together, better as one. 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 Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. Grow a little closer, we water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I won't hold back. I won't hold back. I won't hold back. Cause we're better together, better as one. Better together, take your pain and turn it into pleasure. Into pleasure. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. Just say that you'll be, say that you'll be. I'd be there for you whenever you need me. Whenever you need me. But you've been holding back. Maybe you're just not ready. Baby, do you feel the same? Or do you feel the pressure? I promise I can take your pain and turn it into pleasure. Into pleasure. As time goes by, my love grows
It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye? Quiet like the ocean, with the rumble running deep. This is how I see you, when you hide your feels from me. Why you heavy-hearted? Cut the silence, talk to me. Release your mind, get what you need. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye?
Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. And even when it seems like there's no way out, we'll grow a little closer. We water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I'll hold back. I'll hold back. I'll hold back. 'Cause we're better together. Better as one. 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 Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. Grow a little closer, we're water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I won't hold back. I won't hold back. I won't hold back. Cause we're better together. Better as one. 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 Just say that you'll be. I'd be there for you whenever you need me. But you've been holding back. Maybe you're just not ready. Baby, do you feel the same? Or do you feel the pressure? I promise I can take your pain and turn it into pleasure. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too.
Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now.
Movie walking, I'm out of here. Murder the tune, it's a body here. Reviving the beat, then it's right back to sleeping. I use a technique that they got me here. Whoa. 10 feet ahead of you, catch me, it's something you'll never do. I turn around.
What's the challenge? A little bit greater HP for Victor. The boosters up.
It's incredible. It's how it feels at the top.
Just separation could be the reason why they don't close out this game, swaying on the top.
I give it, look in my eyes.
There's lying X looking to swing on through on the side of it.
I got a lot on the line. Fish with a different approach. Wanna spend time in a boat.
Close together and grouped up. A good nade might find all they're looking for. Langsy leg action.
We're back, everyone, for the PUBG Mobile Pro League Western Europe Fall 2022 season. Some of us a little bit happier than others as we saw MADBULLS run away with it yesterday, picking up 2 chicken dinners and a ton of points behind it. But I have to ask you, French, Max. Wow, I jumped the gun on that one. I jumped the gun on that one completely. How are you doing, Max? Because I can't do the joke anymore.
I'm good, American. I'm fine. I'm having a great day. That was that's a start. Okay. Yeah, so MADBULLS running away with it. To see if they can continue. Yes.
Okay, Kalaris, what about you at the end?
English here, reporting in, ready to go for day 2 for our next part. I don't even know what to say at this point. I'm happy to see the fact that the teams yesterday did so well with it. We expected them to. So hopefully, long may that continue. Back to you, America.
Thank you so much, Mr. British. Let's take a look actually at what's going to be coming up today. Before we get into that, though, I want to remind you guys about Monster Energy, our official energy drink partner here at PMPL. As we got to see Maxman drink out of a lovely horn with his pinky out, which is very contradicting, but it looked fantastic. And I'm glad you weren't allergic to anything.
Yeah, the Viking way. It was pinky out. It's how they do it, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, as they're slaughtering people with their axes, they have their pinky out on the axe handle, you know. Also, you guys can hit us up over on social media as well, not only our own, but of course, all of the official PUBG Mobile Esports ones, where you can see some lovely posts again about PMGC coming up later on this year, as well as who's already been qualified into the event. There's a lot of teams out there looking to we'll play for what's on the line there. Again, every year it's a fantastic event. And I can't wait to see Nova win a 3rd year in a row. But moving on from that one, gentlemen, as we know, that's probably going to be happening. Let's take a look at our overalls. We talked about MADBULLS and how they just dominated yesterday. We're going to see exactly why, as they are in 2nd place now, jumping up the leaderboard quite a bit. However, one star we haven't touched on just yet. It's got to be Crypto of Love.
Crypto of Love. I think you can. That's how you can rebrand the team right now, right? It was how much Crypto has been able to pull off in this 2nd phase currently. He's actually the MVP of the 2nd phase entirely, above Effect and Zerich. So like, he is definitely pulling the team in a really good spot. 3 chicken dinners so far. First team to reach 200 points in this stage of the tournament. So yeah, I mean, they're looking amazing right. I mean, Crypto's looking amazing right now, should I say. I just want to know the team around it a little bit more. But if it works this way, they can go right to the finals, right to the championships like this. Like, you can't argue with it. But I am scared versus the Turkish teams. It might be a little bit of a tougher time to deal with them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the last 2 games that they had yesterday, right, they had 2 2nd places in a row, back-to-back, 9 eliminations, 8 eliminations off the back of that too. So I think overall, what we've seen from Unicorns of Love, especially yesterday, was great, despite not having a chicken dinner on the board. Crypto, as a whole, you mentioned it here, Jason, really a huge standout. And I'm kind of surprised almost that that's the case, not because we don't think Crypto's an amazing player, just I felt like Icy around this roster as a whole was going to be able to rise to the occasion even more. Hasn't quite come to full fruition just yet, but I guess we'll look at the numbers later, right?
Yeah, we're definitely going to look at those later on. I mean, we have to. We gave a lot of criticism to Unicorns of Love when it came to the 1st phase, and hell, showing up so far here in phase 2 has been a fantastic sign, but the question always is going to be, can they maintain this here today? Can they maintain it throughout the rest of phase 2? And of course, coming up into phase 3. But we can look down the list a little bit further. And Na'Vi, as we talk about highs for Unicorns of Love and MADBULLS, Na'Vi had a horrible day yesterday. I believe they got 10 points total.
I think they're following the OG Western European team kind of legacy right now, just not having a good day. It seems like a lot of the bottom teams, it seems. But yeah, Na'Vi not really showing up yesterday's games, unfortunately. I think there's a chance they can come back. They did have, like, you know, a lot of days between the 1st part of this phase and the 2nd part of this phase. So some changes maybe happen, and they've had a little bit of a harder time to deal with it. But I expect them to be hopefully back in the full swing of things in today's matches. And, you know, currently when you're looking at the MVP list of this 2nd phase, Tigsy is still extremely high. I think also some other players are extremely high, potentially Meki or Matic. But yeah, Tigsy is still really up there, high up there. So I think there's a chance they'll come back. But yeah, Na'Vi need to be careful because they slipped down a decent amount of positions yesterday, and they don't want to give too much space. They don't want to allow, you know, VIRTUS.PRO or MUERTE to overtake their spot.
Yeah, for me, it's a blip, Jason. I think we'll see them back as well.
Okay. Was that your prediction for the day? Are you wagering every one of your prediction points? I think you have like 17 million.
Jeez Louise.
On Na'Vi doing well today?
Absolutely not. You know, I'm going to take it game by game, doing my thing, staying ahead of Max and you.
For now. We'll see.
For now.
But what other team in there, Ruthless? I mean, if you were to say to me, you know, Jason, who do you think's going to be one of the top Western European teams coming to this event? You know, not the non-CIS teams. I don't think I would have had Ruthless in there. But again, they've been improving. They're performing really well, as you mentioned yesterday with Manu on the team. We'll see if they can maintain the performance, of course, over today. But looking down the rest of the list, though, Gamelord currently not in that top 12 position. Remember, top 12 moves into the final match tomorrow for Livik for some extra points, and that determines who gets what going into the finals.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little conversation before the pre-show here, actually, with Blank and Kalaris, and they lost their touch, I would say, in a very big fashion. It seemed like the rotations are slower. There's one game in particular yesterday that just shocked me with how Gamelord executed that play. It was that Erangel match. I don't remember which one it was in particular, but where they just go for 4-man push on one player of Eastern Stars up the stairs, and they just almost get 1v4'd.
Yeah.
And that just, for me, just screams like there's no communication, there's no game plan in mind right now. It's just like full send it, maybe something's going to stick, but right now nothing has really stuck for Gamelord outside of that win on the very first game of the tournament. After that, well, pretty much nothing. So Game Lord needs to make some big changes if they want to come back up there.
It's weird, right? Because I feel like Game Lord, if you put them in a position for the fight, I still feel like they can take the fights and potentially win the fights. I still feel that that is the case. It's just that they're not getting to the position initially to put themselves in a decent spot to take the fights. And yeah, I feel like ever since the last season, they're just a little bit slower on their rotation, slower towards the movement, towards the circles, etc. And of course, they do need to fix that.
Speaking about a bit slower too, what about Death Machine? We had them in 3rd place at the end of phase 1. They're currently sitting in 18th place now. They had, was it 227 points at the end of phase 1? What's happened to them? They are not performing like the DM we saw just like last week.
I wish I could really break down what's happening for the team, but we just don't see them in the late game. I think almost ever. So there's very little we can say, like, how can they potentially try and close off games? How do they get into the late game in the first place? They just don't get there, unfortunately. They do tend to go out very, very early. And I've really thought going into this season with players like, you got Happy, you got NASA, you got Sammy, like, you got some players that are really experienced when it comes to PMPL. Sure, maybe not in this region, more in like also Arabia, but I thought that this team could maybe have a little bit of an impression, but it seems like here they just completely fell off and no changes were made. So yeah, I don't really know what to expect from them here.
Yeah, to echo what Max is saying, I can't even really judge what they've been doing in this phase because they have been non-existent. I mean, if you look at day 2, for example, of their phase, it was a 16th place, a 16th place, a 16th place, and a 13th place. That's actually not Death Machine. That's just not Death Machine. Like, this team is capable of more. They just need to be visible on the battleground. And right now, I can't break down what they've done because I haven't even seen what's happened to them.
Dying machine, yes.
Yeah.
Well, if this only happened yesterday for them, I would be like, oh, maybe it's because Max and I played with them in a 2v2. But no, this has been going on for a couple of days now, so it's not our fault, Max. We could be happy about that. But unfortunately, Death Machine haven't replicated the performance from phase 1, but a team who has been able to replicate it that we touched on earlier on today, well, it's got to be MADBULLS. We got to talk about this team a little bit more here. Somehow, they have been able to just dominate the field on different days, on multiple days throughout this event so far, and really showing no signs of stopping. Effect and Zerich have been such a dominant 2-man team when it comes to fragging for MADBULLS that we haven't really seen anyone be able to fight against them successfully.
Yeah, still on the MVP list. I mean, Effect and Zerish are clearly the main fragging duo for MADBULLS, and we still need to highlight, right, Monkey and Skill are still setting up the team in really good ways. They've got some really strong angles. I think that game on the Sanhok in particular, right, where the circle came their way, they were just so controlling with all of those specific off angles, making sure that no one could contest their location. And then when it comes to the like raw fragging power, then you just send Effect, you send Zerish, and it's pretty much in the bag already. And I think a good way to describe it is that they're very by the book. Like, they don't go for these very outlandish plays, very out of the ordinary. It's very basic and by the book, but because it works, it's so efficient, and there's just very little room for mistakes when they do it. So I think they look like the best team in the lobby, I would say.
Yeah, generally you would have one player be the enabled turret and the other 3 kind of like jostle for position to be able to get him in the right spot so he can just gun everything down. However, it feels like MADBULL has 2 turrets and 2 enablers, as you say in skills. A Monkey, we've seen it on Erangel as well, taking the off angles to make sure that these guys are uncontested on flanks, etc. and things like that, just for these guys to then rain down a hail of bullets, gathering eliminations where they can. And the consistency overall is ridiculous, Jason, from phase to phase here. And it feels like, even looking at average healing, shows that they're taking the fights at what seems like the same pace from phase to phase, but at the same speed, to the point where, okay, we know how much time we need to finish these fights, we know how much damage we're likely to be taking from this fight, and how we're going to recover from it. They're very good right now.
Yeah, within what, 100 average damage, within 1 minute survival time, within, well, just over 1 extra average limb, which is obviously a massive net increase for them. I don't know what it is about this team, but they're looking like one of the teams that can challenge the likes of these, you know, massive international rosters that we've seen in the past. And you know, I don't want to build them up to the point where, you know, we see MADBULLS go into the European Regional Championship, if they qualify, obviously, and then they can't seem to contest or contend with these Turkish teams. I don't want to see that happen. I would like to see like a Western European team be able to go to PMGC and do well. TJB has kind of been our representative for the last, I'd say, year. But unfortunately, all the experience they've had at these international events hasn't paid off for them because they're not dominating Western Europe anymore, and they can't dominate in international events. And I feel like I'm being very harsh right now, Max. Save me.
I mean, no, unfortunately, you're right on the money there, Jason. I have to say, like, these new CIS teams are the teams that can deal the best, I would say, with some of the Turkish opposition we're going to have in the championship, right? I mean, you just look even at last year's PMPL Championships for the European region, and you saw also the MADBULLS, even though it's not the exact same roster, they also performed there. And I think that when you have some of the players that already went through that kind of process, already did dominate in that kind of environment, I think there's a high chance that knowledge is going to be brought back with this roster, and they're just going to perform once again. So, yeah, I mean, they're looking like they're going to dominate the region, and in the championship, I would be really surprised if they don't perform there. So, yeah, I think high chances are they're going to be one of our teams to go maybe the entire way and also make it in PMGC.
Well, another team, Kalaris, that I'm kind of looking towards of potentially playing in the European Regional Championship if they maintain this level of play is Unicorns of Love. Now, the downside for them is I don't believe they have a ton of international play, but one thing they do have is a crypto on the team.
That's right, and he's been playing out of his mind when it came to, especially yesterday, never mind this phase as a whole. The fact that he's posted up this many eliminations across the board when it comes to comparing him to the other members on the team is now on insane. I mean, admittedly, there's been positions where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a really good position to be able to kind of get a lot of frags from. And I feel like Icy has been a little bit unlucky in some of his plays as well, if I cast my mind back to yesterday when, unfortunately for him, Trazen was lurking in the wings and kind of shut down his really good position. That's a bit unfortunate, but overall, yeah, Crypto, an absolute standout.
And I want to jump on what you said, Jason, about their potentially lack of international experience. I'm going to have to say no to that one. You got Gonzo, played PMGC, Kanina Power, one of the best fragging IGLs next to Solke in PMGC, and what was that? League stage of 2020. Rolkis also played in PMGC, went in PMPL Arabia, came back to the region now. So, like, we have two globetrotters for this team right now. So they have definitely an ample amount of information, of knowledge on how these different regions play and how these major tournaments actually unfold. So I think if they make it, this roster has a pretty big chance of being able to perform. So,
well, you know what, Max?
It'll be good.
I'm going to hit you back with that one.
Oh, wow.
Gonzo's on loan to Unicorns of Love. We don't even know if he's going to play in the international events for them.
Fair.
Also, Rokas isn't one of the star players when it comes to fragging potential. So Crypto and Icy would have to be the ones to carry the weight. And we've seen Icy not live up to the Icy we saw last season, currently here in this season. So bam, what do you got against that?
Nothing. I don't want to reply.
No, I mean, you're right. Obviously, like, Gonzo does have a ton of experience behind them, and we've seen in the past, like with Silas, what a strong e-game leader with experience can do, especially when he gets that information to his team of how to adjust and how to play. But we'll see, obviously, if Unicorns of Love do get there. But let's take a look at the matches coming up today. And it's our second day in our phase cycle, which means we're heading over into double Sanhok territory and double Erangel territory today. But tomorrow we'll be having double Sanhok, double Miramar, one Erangel, and one Livik.
Spooky. What's that?
Crab.
I also have heard we have predetermined the zone finishing on Crabgrass, so Kalaris is excited when we get to that point. But yeah, no, double Sanhok today. Again, we've seen a lot of adjustments, in particular when it comes to this map. TJB yesterday having some ridiculous splits when it comes to this map in particular. But again, my eyes are always going to turn towards that Northwestern Island where we've seen a ton of little adaptations, Max.
Yeah, especially I want to look at Game Lord and Eastern Stars, what the hell they're doing in particular. Like, they keep moving things around a bit. Eastern Stars, go to Hatton. It's worked. Okay, just don't go to the west. Don't go that position because it's going to be big. Don't go to the east because you're going to have Game Lord. Just stay in Hatton, loot that spot. It's enough for one entire team. So, just don't change it. There's no need. It's a good spot.
I think though we need to see that come to fruition tomorrow more than anything, right? They're only playing one Sanhok today. They are in Group E. They're not playing this first game. They're playing the fourth game throughout the day. So we will see it in Sanhok later on. Just depends on how that circle is going to go. On only one game compared to the two to adapt on the third day, even I should say. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, you know what? It's time to get into our best part of the show. Everyone's favorite part of the show, our prediction game and our question for the day. Now, this question is a little bit out of left field, if I'm perfectly honest with you guys. It involves Beast from Big and his pets. He has 3 dogs, a parrot, and a cat. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, but I feel like I've heard something about a parrot and a player from Big. Being a dog and a cat, obviously, it seems realistic.
Saying you have
in my head, I went with yes.
I think you have info you shouldn't have there, Jason. But yeah.
No, I don't know where the information's coming from. I feel like maybe I was dreaming one day, and that it just popped into my head. What do you guys go with?
I went with no personally because having a parrot, dogs, and everything, I think that could be a little bit of an issue if you're playing and like they're talking over your comms. So.
Okay.
That was kind of my reasoning as well. I feel like that'd be a bit chaotic. So, yeah, it'd be hard to focus.
So you're assuming he lives maybe on his own, or he has like these pets in his room? Because in my head, it's like family pets.
You know what, Jason?
That's what you get.
That's what you get, man.
Oh, well,
That's what
it's fine.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Bab?
Oh, but that American.
I'm gonna be different, okay? I'm not gonna go with the trend. Why wouldn't you have a parrot?
Keep
You know
doing
what,
that.
Max, you
Keep
need a
that trend
parrot.
going. Can you keep
You
not
are-
getting points?
You are still ahead of Max. You are still ahead of Max.
Just look up predictions from yesterday. Max man, all red, all incorrect.
I got a bunch of
Oh,
second
I
and
had
third
3.
places. Come on. I get my butt chin out of there. Come on. Oh.
You really want this photo changed, eh?
Yeah. Production, please.
You've been sending pictures to them for them to use, and I've been sending them some money under the table to be like, hey, don't change the picture. So it works out for me. But guys, we are about to head into our first match today. Max, we really need to focus in though on that butt chin. No, I'm just kidding. We really need to focus in though on some of these teams. Like for instance, is there any teams in particular you're looking out for today? For me, I mean, after seeing them in overalls, it's got to be Death Machine. I want to see if they can turn their stars around. They've not been performing whatsoever, and it's not like we know they can, or it's not like we haven't been able to see them do it before.
Yeah. I think Death Machine could try and get a good result. I think that this second phase is pretty much done. I think the phase 3 is where they should try and like put all their coins into and potentially try and perform there in particular. I want to see Tag step up. We had some of the players actually playing in the Ukrainian team for the Bali qualifier actually, and actually they qualified for the Bali event in December. And I think that versus teams like also you had some players from NEXUS, players from Eastern Stars, and also some players from Fireflux, which is a very impressive win for them. So yeah, I think that Tag especially could maybe try and push himself a little bit higher, maybe play the Livik at the end of the phase and get some improvement overall.
Okay, Mr. Steve Jobs over there, what about you?
I think Na'Vi's not going to have 2 bad days in a row. I think that they're going to come back swinging today. It wasn't that ironed out yesterday. We'll see them come back to form today.
But now I'm a little bit worried, Max, because I want to see Na'Vi do really bad today, just so Claris is wrong. But I want to see Na'Vi do well because I like them as a team. I'm so conflicted. Let's head over to our commentators, though, because the first match is ready to go with John Allen and Blank once again.
Oh, there we are. Hello. We're ready for this game. We're getting into the first game. It's double Erangel, double Sanhok day today. Blank. It's looking bright. We coordinated on the color. I don't think that was planned, but you know what? It's gone well. It's gone well. Looking good.
Yeah, we're fine. I mean, the Claris also wearing exact same thing on the desk, so he's been in my wardrobe for a black tee, which is totally not common at all. But we are heading straight over into the game here on Sanhok. Over on the western side of the island is our playing path to go. The guys on the desk talking about a lot of different things there, and we'll do a quick recap. MADBULLS obviously being extremely consistent so far. Crypto propping up the entirety of Unicorns of Love at the moment, really massively outperforming everyone else, and it's not something we expect, especially with IC being so effective in the past. However, maybe this is just a case of where IC is supporting Crypto a lot, and I do see that quite frequently in a lot of the games we watch from Unicorns of Love. IC being a very efficient backstop for Crypto to really find a lot of that success in that game. So stats, again, they do look fun, they do look interesting, especially when someone's so far ahead of everyone else, but they don't tell the entire story. Sometimes we have to give it a little bit of a backdrop there, some context as well, John, and there's your context straight away. But it's Big and TJB starting things off a little bit weird, a little bit wonky up here in Hattin.
Yeah, Big don't normally drop out this far east on the Northwest Island, right? Normally this is maybe Eastern Stars that drop out here, people like that. But Big have decided to divert. Maybe they saw the TJB parachutes who have not gone central this time around, Blank.
No, they've not headed over towards the side of VP. And again, this is maybe a sudden change just because of how westerly that playing path was there, John. And instead decided to challenge out in Hattin, which is usually Eastern Stars drop, but Big drop here instead. So it's a little bit weird. Both these teams trying to pick up on a drop spot that is open at the moment. Odd because Big does have the entirety of Camp Alpha free to themselves. However, maybe a little bit wary of Na'Vi and getting an early pick in that match over on that side. So this is quite a well-adjusted drop spot for both these teams, in my opinion. I think they both make sense. They both have their reasonings for doing this. However, it has put them now in a bit of a sticky spot where one of these teams is most likely going to take a knock and a flush, as no one really wants to move from this position. You have a lot of control on this side of the map at the moment. You have control over that eastern bridge. Unicorns of Love typically don't rotate over towards the west side. They like to head down past VP in Camp Bravo and swing in by Quarry. So again, this does afford you a huge amount of control over towards the northwest side of the map. So both these teams will most likely stay here for a little while longer, chill it out, get the stopwatch out, and see just how long it takes to hit Zone 2 before they might have to move.
I'm looking as well at QODEX and their position. They dropped over towards Ruins near Take Aim Gaming. QODEX, I mean, they were dropping towards PIONER in a lot of these games, but this time around they've diverted that and they've gone just south of Take Aim Gaming. So potential for a little bit of a scrap there, especially with the circle as it is. Those paths could come to cross. TJB take a little bit of damage and they are still very, very close to Big in this Hartin engagement. Fire in the corner, but sets himself ablaze. That's not ideal. Already 2 knocks, 3 knocks. TJB folding in the face of Big.
Yeah, looking like origami here a little bit, because that's at least 7 folds happening in a very, very short space of time. Hopefully, they make something a little bit pretty at the end of it, but that looks more like a swan origami, as that is the swan song from TJB in Hartin, as their final player has yet to fall, but I believe that will be happening very shortly as Big start to swarm the position.
Yeah, they know where he is now. Nade up the stairs, absolutely encircle the building. Go for the challenge. Miki does go down. Lin drops for another, wants to go on the swivel, but Beast puts an end to that rubbish, that nonsense. No, thank you. TJB denied in Hartin.
Again, really quite a sloppy push into the building, even just the backstep into the Molotov as well, which burns the player. Really sets a lot of panic, a lot of chaos going in the midst of TJB, and Big is quite quick to pick up on that and will instantly get the refrags and the knocks going. So very nice stuff there from Big to finish out that fight very quickly. And again, this leads back into the original point of affording themselves a huge amount of control now over this northwest side of the island. The question is whether Unicorns Love might head over towards that west side. They should know that Eastern Stars aren't playing this game, and Big may perhaps even make that rotate over towards the North Bridge. So Unicorns Love, if they want to do something that I was suggesting yesterday and be a bit more reactive and look for those opportunities around the map, this would be a perfect place to do it.
Pioneer in boot camp. Is Na'Vi kind of shimmying their way down those coastlines, holding this confluence, the compounds across the rivers, very, very strong. And Tixi taking sightlines towards Pioneer, or rather towards boot camp, not necessarily straight at Pioneer, but that is who is sat in there right now. Nexus still just chilling around Pioneer.
Again, taking control of this position very early on in the tournament, around about, I think it was the second week of phase 1, where Nexus really gained a lot of control here in Pioneer. They challenged out versus QODEX, and QODEX really didn't have anything to bring back to the table to them, and didn't even lift a finger to the guys on Nexus, and so they have comfortably now got the entirety of Pioneer to themselves. Won't have seen shoots, so we'll be able to loot both sides of Pioneer very, very effectively, getting themselves a bunch of loot on board, and also that central position, which is the main point to have around Pioneer, as it's a great spot for rotates all around the map, purely because you do have those 2 sides to Pioneer, and it's easy to cross the bridge in between if you are the sole protector of Pioneer, as you don't have another team that can see you, and a lot of the buildings will break a lot of those sight lines from other teams around this position. You mentioned Na'Vi coming down towards the Confluence compound. That happened fairly quickly, in fact, and another thing's happened fairly quickly is MADBULLS right on our screen now, who've moved down from Paradise Resort. We see them spend a lot of time up in that position, but with it being so far on the edge of the circle, you can see why they might move down now, instead taking the rocky outcrops on the side of Paradise Resort and gain a little bit of scouting information early. This is fine. I think this is an acceptable rotation. They could head down towards the warehouses in boot camp, and even look down towards Pioneer and see if they find themselves a cheeky pick there.
It's like they'll hold on the hill for now. They'll see if they'll make that break in the minutes to come. Shockwave on the southeast side of boot camp as well. It's looking tougher and tougher for Pioneer to actually get themselves out of boot camp at this stage, especially with the circle as it is. Unlikely that it's going to shift away anytime soon, so there's going to be more and more teams kind of packing themselves around those routes of exit, and it's only going to be a matter of time before another team challenges them inside the compound.
Yeah, this is typically where you get the cement and bricks out, right? And you build the walls around boot camp and you try and just defend this position. You don't want to peek too much. You just want to gain that information, make sure no one gets around you too much, in which case you can't take the fight back because you're more likely to get third parties. So territory control, extremely important now for the guys of Pioneer. But this is more of a situation where you're waiting for the next circle to pop. So you can start to move out. Most likely a lot of these teams that are encircling boot camp are more ready for a position where, you know, if it ends over here, this is where you typically want to try and push into, find yourself some cover, maybe share it with another team. But there is also still a potential where we get a northwest shift or a southwest shift, in which case a lot of these teams will have to move. You'd imagine that Pioneers would be the last to move in that scenario, as a lot of eyes will still be on boot camp. So that is something that Pioneers will have to watch out for in the future.
Keep themselves on the swivel. QODEX moved south from ruins, now potentially looking to just take a spread over that southwestern island. Not moving close to Pioneer just yet. NEXUS still hold that convincingly. Still picking through. No one really pressuring into another team right now. I feel like SHOCKWAVE and Na'Vi are probably the two teams most likely to clash in the next minute or two. You could also potentially see VIRTUS.PRO and Death Machine on that eastern side.
There's a potential that these two teams do clash a little bit. I'm trying to remember yesterday, I think it was Ruthless Esports who set themselves on a great cross, watching over towards VP's position. Something that they seem to be very aware of, and it was an interesting one because it did very much feel like VP had the drop, or at least thought that they had the drop on Ruthless Esports, but it was a case where they were just watching out for that push from VP and were able to take them down. Luckily, VP, this isn't a case in this game of Ruthless Esports not playing, in which case they do have free reign over towards this eastern side, which is really, really good stuff for them. And they're able to play around with this a little bit and see what they can get done from that position. Obviously, there's still a lot of ridges and a lot of hills to play around with, some hard cover VP. It will be a case where they'll have to slowly make their way down. This is what Pioneer were hoping for. A bootcamp finish would have been nice as well, but again, this does provide them a little bit more comfortability in the circle, let's say, because they will be able to move out. A lot of these teams will start to find themselves a position maybe down towards the south, more towards the middle, in which case Pioneer can start to maybe play edge a little bit more instead of having to watch literally 360 degrees around them.
Take Aim Gaming moving north of that bridge. They went up and potentially play spoiler to Big here, who started out well, taking down TJB in dominant fashion. And potentially running into that roadblock. Take Aim Gaming kind of have been that southern bane for Big on Sanhok this whole time, this whole tournament.
They haven't realistically got too much done from that spot, though, but it does always make things a little bit more tricky for Big. And in recent times, we have seen Big taking more and more crossings on that north bridge. Unicorns of Love don't quite find the timing on them, as Big is just very happy to continue looting on the northwest island, understanding that Na'Vi most likely will have left by now. So Camp Alpha, very much free to them. Big's looking to pick up some vehicles in the boats up towards that northwest side as well, and can quite quickly swing down towards Tambang, find themselves a spot there, and just completely make that position of Take Aim Gaming obsolete. See MADBULLS now on a very, very high position as Unicorns of Love start to make their way down the circle, opting to not go for that eastern swing this time around. They did hold on that north bridge. I like that, but instead they're going to come down towards the warehouses of Bootcamp. But it is effective. It does have eyes on them. We know how effective this guy can be. Raucous immediately has to hit cover, and that's 3 bullets instantly hitting.
And they're trying to send some bullets back towards effect, but he repositions off the rock. Raucous will have to heal up. Quick cartwheel in the buggy. And it's effect back to safety, moving to the rest of the team. Really quite split from the rest of them, as you were saying, but as you also rightly pointed out, not the kind of guy you want to meddle with. Crypto, similarly powerful so far. The desk were talking about this guy quite a lot, and rightly so. He's been on an absolute tear over this phase, and the Unicorns of Love should absolutely be chuffed to bits with it. Question is, can they keep that pace up? Can Crypto keep that pillar holding up the strength of Unicorns of Love?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this right at the beginning of the game, right? Is that the stats don't say everything there. I do think Icy's doing a good job to back him up a lot of times. I think Gonzo sometimes does get a little bit over-aggressive on the flanks that he holds. We saw that yesterday on Miramar, where it kind of brought the whole thing tumbling down for them, which should have been a chicken dinner for them because they set themselves up so well there. This is sometimes what we've seen from Unicorns of Love is falling at the last hurdle, which is getting that chicken dinner. That setup seems really, really strong until they take that one knock on maybe a player that's a little bit too far out to even res. And it was very unfortunate with Icy perhaps even looking to go for that res as well and not coming through. Even so, it was the case that Pioneer weren't pushing that. So Unicorns of Love do need to tighten up their late game splits just a tiny, tiny bit so they can play to their fullest potential. But at the moment, they don't look too bad. MADBULLS do have info on them, so they will most likely have to push through Pioneer or face up against the MADBULLS themselves.
Team Doom could be caught unaware by this backfill from 4 Romanian men. GetWrecked does in fact spot one and immediately takes the flush. Now the smokes can start to bloom, but what a refrag there coming through from Easy. Spray down from behind the rock. And now Rana's in to try and get this res. The circle shifts out west, but there's a nade being popped on in for Easy. A little bit short, but in front of the rock this time around, and that means 4 Romanian men will get this res off. But they don't have that many meds to play with. They're playing southeast, trapped against the blue.
Yeah, not a lot of time to play around with here. Joe moves up. He is very much out in the open, though. This is a crazy position from him. With the amount of teams that are in this spot, you know that GetWrecked spots him over the top side of that rock at the moment. But realistically, his job is just to hold these teams out. Nice Molotov comes through, and this will really, really put the stopper now on 4 Romanian men.
Really having the best of positions to take this fight. Looks like they already tried to escape, but it didn't work out so well. GetWrecked again finds the floor. Far from ideal. A nade out wide from Andre to stop any downhill flanks. In the meantime, Death Machine go down. I think that was to VP on the eastern side. They were close by. Hang on a minute. No, it can't have been. It was a
QODEX,
split up
bro.
between. Yeah, they didn't get any points.
Yeah, QODEX were able to take him out there. MUERTE's actually taking a couple of shots up towards QODEX themselves. You see also Nightmare chiming in. They do find the flush over towards Woodson. MoneyKen, again, playing this very, very big split away from the rest of the team. It has worked out a few times before, but that's another player now going down for QODEX. And I believe they're just down to 2 players with PNL and MoneyKen. So quickly fall down off the back of the good team wipe onto Death Machine. And again, it's that third party that you always have to be aware of there. MoneyKen does find Flyke though. I do think this is just a case of a reposition from QODEX required. Big, on the other hand, making that large rotation again from the top side of the Northwest Island. I'm not sure where they're going to crest inwards. I mean, Tambang wouldn't be the best idea. You could also come in towards the docks of Nakam. That is fairly free at the moment.
Unicorns of Love trying to roll up towards the compound that Shockwave hold right now on the northeast of Pioneer. It's looking all right. Rolkis did take a lot of damage on the roll on in, but none of them go down. Unfortunately, Crypto takes an early kip in this fight, will get knocked. It is traded off and flushed away as well. Looking for this res, Rolkis is there. Terminus wants to put the nade in to stop this down, but the reposition is good and Rolkis won't fall. Unfortunately, his teammate's not so lucky. Icy now with it all to prove around the side of the wall. Will find one and get the flush back as well. 2 players down now by the wall. It's Rolkis and Icy to try and hold off against Trazen and Terminus from Shockwave. As Trazen wants the fight, he wants to push past this smoke. Terminus holding on the inside. Rolkis breaks in, but spotted from underneath the building. Breaks out very, very wide. Low HP and Icy's there, but there's another re-knock coming through as Nexus chime into the fight blank. They are making it so hard to get this done, but Shockwave feel the brunt of it too as Nexus roll over the hill.
Redux now in a great position to pick up some more eliminations over towards Unicorns of Love. Luckily, they were able to get 1 extra player over the side. Now they just have to play a defense role at the moment. Trazer might take some shots. That's a great one from Rolkis. Does he find the flush? Not quite over the top of the grass there as Redux slips away. But this is decent from Unicorns of Love. They were sort of bailed out there by Nexus just a little bit. Icy playing along the wall side. And they're just looking for the final player of Shockwave so they can turn their attention to the real threat in Nexus along the way.
They know where the last player from Shockwave is. They know where Trazen hides. They put those nades out there already. You know, he hasn't jumped out the back now. Could still have gone out the back door towards the wall, but I think they're more worried about the building, and rightly so. Rolkis pops the flush, checks for the angle, waits for the spray. They definitely know he's there now. Crypto on the flank. They're moving in. They want to take this off angle, but it's a fumble there. Coming through is maybe to be able to stand up, but no, Rolkis does shut it down. Rolkis misses the stairs and leaves Crypto a little bit high and dry. He can't get back to cover, and Pioneer steal it away.
Yeah, Pioneer passing down now from Bootcamp. This is what we were mentioning earlier on in the game, is that Pioneer are really waiting for a lot of these teams to leave out of Bootcamp before they finally made their move across. Now it's working out for them. They do still have to cross the bridge, though, which is a little bit stressful for themselves. Jason giving a big vouch over to Muerte, and Maxman and Kalaris both vouching for Na'Vi, looking to bring this one up. I respect Jason for that call, though, considering he was against Kalaris's mention at the beginning of the day that Na'Vi would have their flip and turn on the actual gamer mode for themselves and hopefully bring themselves a very, very good day today to sit back on top of the tables.
Icy getting knocked there. Not good news for Unicorns of Love. They already lost their big cannon, Crypto, and losing the guy that we know can step up for them in those cases, in those scenarios, really not ideal. Muerte taking the fight at the moment with VP, who've swung all the way down to the southwest. In the meantime, though, MADBULLS against NEXUS, who, NEXUS, I feel like they've been very controlling in their position from Painan. They have absolutely done what they set out to do, be those bridge trolls.
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job. Even sending Redox up towards the top side to mess around that fight between Shockwave and Unicorns of Love have left Unicorns of Love out in the blue now, where it's going to be extremely difficult for them to get down towards Painan or even go for a bridge crossing. The least they could go for is maybe into the water. VP Fall on a mad rotate down towards the south side, unable to step up to Muerte. Believe that they did actually get... No, they didn't even get a single knock over to Muerte. So currently at 4 players, 4 eliminations as well. Very nice stuff here. And we get a super central circle. We don't get this very often. Usually we get at least one of these teams being able to give it some kind of blessing in these final circles. But this middle zone is going to be really, really good for a lot of these teams.
XTEAM Nightmare, the only player really in the middle right now. Na'Vi have spread out on this northern side. They can look at the high ground they have against Take-Aim Gaming here as well. They can control this exit really effectively and then start to push down to the south. You can see QODEX also coming under fire from Na'Vi's high ground position. As Take-Aim Gaming are going to have to figure out how to get around this.
Unicorns of Love actually find the last elimination over towards Pioneer, taking them out the game. Tixi, though, great spray. Hadj, again, making a really dangerous cross here. It's so easy for Tixi to get these knocks, and Take-Aim Gaming and making it super, super simple to just wreck them. And this gives them so much space now on the northern side to just mess around with. Unicorns of Love try and send across, but it's an easy spray here for Tixi. Can't quite get it, though.
Not able to land the shots, unfortunately, but Unicorns of Love still low, and the rest of the Na'Vi squad are trying to pepper on in. Not quite even able to find Rolkis after they hop out. Kitsune was in the position there. Icy on that forward-facing spot. 2 players alive for Unicorns of Love. Na'Vi can't afford to lose a player if they want to control this northern side, but that's good news. Look at that. NEXUS, again, third party to the fight, and we'll be able to take the second as well, and eliminating the Unicorns of Love.
Na'Vi just taking a couple of shots across the way as they pass to prevent any of the teams from taking shots back at them. But NEXUS, this game, like I said, has been very good for them. Haven't had to challenge against QODEX, and because they were able to get so much of Painan control early, they again were able to push that into getting eliminations on the northern side of them, taking down some third parties, just putting a little bit of damage in, which has caused problems for a lot of these teams. Now they're starting to sweep down towards that south side.
I think Muerte might have already started the heal strat with Dadaev, despite having all 4 of them alive in a southwest compound. Not entirely sure about that call, but it certainly is a call nonetheless. NEXUS continue to try and light up on this eastern side, but QODEX are still going with the 1 player that they have remaining. Money Ken spots a player from Na'Vi, that's Tixi. Getting knocked, actually both 2 players. Kitsune going down as well. Both forward players for Na'Vi, that's disastrous.
Yeah, Money Ken really being the massive showstopper to a lot of these teams, even against VP yesterday on Miramar. Just as a solo, he's able to do a lot of work, and he's practically playing just against his own team a lot of times, letting them take fights on their own, looking for these endgame scenarios. He is all on his lonesome now, and Matic takes some shots, but again, there's another knock there, and this is going to hugely slow down Na'Vi, and they might need to just think about how are they going to get control, because Nexus is starting to move up their way. Luckily, there is a knock onto Redux, so it gives them a slight sigh of relief in the circle.
XTEAM preoccupying them right now, but they finally get eliminated. Now Big with their lone player SHOCKWAVE out in the zone healing. Dadaev as well for MUERTE, still as a backstop. Na'Vi allowed the time to heal up. No one in this next zone.
Really curious play, like you said earlier, from MUERTE to leave Dadaev out of the circle. They had so much space to play around with. It doesn't really make much sense to not play as the 4 here. Dadaev must have a lot of meds, but you're taking meds away from your team as well, because you're most likely feeding some of those back over to him. Yeah, you might have gone out down in 5, but really with this circle and the circles they had prior, it did not make sense to me to leave that player out. Now they're in a 3v4v4, whereas I think they could have controlled this circle a lot better.
Made in from Octavian. Does find the damage onto Striker, but not all of it. Striker wants to post one back. SHOCKWAVE still healing out there behind Na'Vi's position. Could prove to be interesting if he runs out of meds and goes for the peaks, but that's a really good start for MUERTE onto Octavian. A knock goes over to Na'Vi. MUERTE actually potentially looking at as to be one of the stronger teams right now in this position. English goes in, sprays 1, sprays 2, and Nexus are coming apart at the seams. MUERTE, they hand all their meds over to Dadaev, but it's not even going to matter. They're going to move straight on through, and Na'Vi are falling in front of them as well. Tixi goes down to the crosshairs of Striker, and now there's only one player left standing, looking for the res from Na'Vi. And only one of them is there. English has 5 nades to put in, and that should be curtains. That's all Na'Vi can do. And somehow, with no meds, MUERTE just turn it on. They flip the switch, take down Nexus and Na'Vi in the final circle.
They don't even need Dadaev here. MUERTE, the killers of the lobby. Big's moving up with SHOCKWAVE, but that's all there is to it. The other healer at the circle's part of their team.
What is going on? That is one of the weirdest strats I think I've seen win a game here on Sanhok. They took all those meds away. They blitzkrieged that game, and I'll tell you what, Kalaris and Maxman are going to be crying right now, because Jason, there's no way he should have won that prediction. And MUERTE, there's no way they should have won that.
I mean, I would be fuming if I was Max and Kalaris here, because realistically, that game was in the hands of Na'Vi. It shouldn't have been a MUERTE win. It should have been Na'Vi or Nexus taking that one. But again, it all comes down to English in those last moments. We talked about before how strong of a player this guy is, and there he is for you. 9 eliminations. Goodness me. Extremely good grenades in those final moments. I think he must have had like at least 7 in the pocket. And when you've got all that hard cover around where there's really not a lot of space in the middle, those nades super duper come into effect, because he's just able to toss them over the top. He finds a really good one over to Octavian after the information is given from the smoke. And it was not easy. They were playing uphill, but they just sped the game up to fast forward speed. They were on 8 times in those last moments.
I mean, it was those slowdown knocks to Na'Vi that I think really gave them that opening, right? It slowed Na'Vi's progression down. They couldn't move forwards and take control. And they just crumbled. It was incredible, the speed at which MUERTE took down 2 4-man squads.
It did not make sense to me whatsoever. It shouldn't have happened. Dadaev was probably like, I'm healing, do you need help? And they're like, no, we got this, lads.
Well, there you go. Somehow, MUERTE with 3 players, no meds, take down 2 full-force 4-player squads. Na'Vi and Nexus crying in the club right now.
I'm not going to gloat about it. You know, it's fine. We all get wins. We all get losses. But my boy Gush, actually, that's what I call him. We're friends like that, so I can call him that. English, able to pick up 9 elims, as you saw, though, in that last match. And to be fair, I was saying, MUERTE went into that final zone with like basically handicapping themselves, putting Data Eve just to heal off in the blue. And it seemed like a lack of confidence, but the way they finished off that game didn't seem like a lack of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, the way they pushed that one too, I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I do think I saw like the PL road cross strat, which is basically you have 2 smoke roads, you're just blocking out 2 separate angles. That was really efficient to make that cross road happen. And then, and you mentioned it also, Kalaris, right, talking about it during that game, is that the fact that they didn't wait for the third party to break up, actually went for the push. Remember, they got knocks down on the players of Nexus to make sure they get control of the eastern side, they get access to that little rock position, and then can apply pressure over on Navi's side. It was just efficient. As you said, without Data Eve 2, the fact that they make it work 3v4v4 is even more impressive there.
Yeah, this was a clinic put on Sanhok, really rules 101 in terms of potential for a third party to come along and shut you down after you are the one that makes the engagement first. But the fact that they took down Nexus so swiftly while still barring Na'Vi kind of on the edge of a circle was extremely impressive by MUERTE. There was only 2 choices for me, clear-cut choices for me, Jason, in this game. It was go with Na'Vi at 15 minutes or go with MUERTE at 15 minutes. But I didn't go with MUERTE because I didn't think that they were going to be able to cleanly get across that road. But they did. So kudos to them. Huge points for a Sanhok game.
Never doubt Gush and the boys. 20 points though for Nexus Gaming. Obviously still picking up 17, but big. Let's talk about them really quickly. 16 points. Now only 4 limbs, but those came from that fight up against TJB very early on in the match. But SHOCKWAVE healing off in the blue. That's, I think, one of Big's highest scoring games they've had so far in this season.
Yeah, this is the second time that we see SHOCKWAVE actually survive until the end game for the team and actually get a few decent amount of points. But yeah, I mean, Big, when they get to the late game, I think that's when they struggle the most, right, currently in this tournament. They can get eliminations, they showed it in the past, and they can still make it happen here versus TJB, for example. But the moment they have to push into the circle, that's when they struggle and they just go to the heal strat, which, you know what? I can't argue with that. They're so far behind right now. I think there's no initial risk with them doing so. So just try and get as many points as possible. And A16 for their troubles, that's pretty decent for Big.
Yeah, I mean, as you're saying, they've had a very rough tie when it's come to, I think, this second phase. I think they're in 17th place at the start of the day at 59 points. So this is able to shoot them up a little bit and potentially close that gap that they need to get into top 12, where it's currently sitting at 93 before this match. Looking on the rest of the list, though, Death Machine again, a team we talked about towards the start, unfortunately having a rough time. MADBULLS as well, rotating in, having a very rough time. I think that was NEXUS able to shoot them down. A little bit of a tough match for a couple of the teams that we had our eye on.
I'm trying to think how Death Machine and TJB even really dealt with this. I mean, DJB, of course, got themselves in the rough spot, right, Max?
Yeah, I mean, THB, we've seen this happen quite often, actually, unfortunately, is you have 2 teams dropping in Hatin, mostly because Eastern Star's not playing here. Hatin is their main drop location.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you see them dropping, even before the parachute is deployed, you see them dropping in that spot. Big, see that. They drop normally Camp Alpha. They could change their location if they want. Luckily enough, they do in the fight. But TJB, they don't really have a drop location, right? And I'm thinking they could potentially leave, go to where usually Game Lord would drop, I think would be a good option. But yeah, I think the TJB could have been a little bit more reactionary to that information, but they just decided to commit to it. And unfortunately, TJB, as you know in this tournament, struggle when it comes to taking fights at face value, and they just went out early.
Yeah, that's what was surprising to me, actually, was to see TJB be willing to go for the fight against Big when they should have known. Like, if you watch back any of the matches we've had so far in this entire event, you would know Big like to go up there and they like to use that position, especially when, you know, Eastern Stars isn't really in the lobby and such. But for them to commit to the fight was very surprising, and I'm not sure why they would really do that.
It's overall, I mean, Northwest Island is probably one of the most contested locations on Sanhok for all of this. I mean, people will probably say to you, yeah, but what about boot camp? Yeah, but what about Paradise Resort? I think that a lot of teams know that if you're dropping on Northwest Island and a circle does go up there, being primed and ready to take up a primary spot on the island is of extreme importance compared to, I would say, the South Island, or sorry, the Southwest Island or the mainland itself. Yeah. So I guess that's in part why, but yeah, you've got to understand that there will be people trying to gun for you if you're going to try and drop there.
You just look at how Na'Vi play the trifecta, right? They got in that late game circle position with minimal effort because of how strong trifecta is there. That 2-2 split, waiting for the circle to center on a specific island, then just go onto that island, move in. It's super easy. So that's the reason why it's so contested, because the access points are just so good if you know how to rotate efficiently and hopefully, like Na'Vi, on time.
Yeah, we can see that maybe reflected in a head-to-head between them and MUERTE here. just to see how easy their path was compared to DeMorte, who I guess got themselves set up decently well early on, but you can see a massive discrepancy in terms of damage and eliminations. But again, with English playing like that, or my boy Gush, you kind of expect that.
Them ain't Sanhok numbers, I'll tell you that much for MUERTE. I mean, the compound that they were playing from, I didn't expect them to be able to do this much damage from where they were. But again, as you say, English being able to do the amount of damage he did even just to solely Nexus alone, never mind anything else, is going to pay dividends in the long run. And I'm happy to see DeMorte kind of finding what I feel like is stability in the last couple of days here. Some really good performances yesterday, rolling into today, having that momentum still. Nice.
You know, I think to be fair, if the zone did shift towards PIONER instead of like in the center between like DeMorte and PIONER's position, then it would have been a completely different story. And unfortunately, that's just how it works out sometimes when it comes to Sanhok. Sometimes you get the zone, sometimes you don't. If it went PIONER, I think all of us would have lost our prediction, to be fair.
Agreed. Yeah,
would have been tough, but it's good from DeMorte in particular, because you saw a few times in especially I think it was the first phase, we had that one Miramar match where they normally should have been able to close it off, and they kind of like fumbled towards the end where threw it away. And I think it's actually Na'Vi that got the win right after, right? So it's good to see actually that they made some iterations and are willing to take control. Like you had the striker going for the opening frags, then followed up with the push from English to clear out 3 players of the Nexus team. So yeah, I think it looked very efficient, looked very clean, very smooth. The communication seemed on point, and yeah, I think if they can remain on this kind of consistent point, they can keep moving up on the rankings.
Yeah. You know, I think I was very critical on them of like, why is there only 3 players in the zone? Why are they keeping out Dariv, healing? It's showing like a lack of confidence. You know, you're not committing to the zone to think you can win. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, this format has changed, right? Every point you get could potentially give you that extra point or potentially more points going into the finals, depending on where you do rank at the end of a phase. So maybe this is actually them playing super smart by saying we need to just confirm a certain amount of points to potentially have more going into the finals so we can potentially get into the European regionals. Whereas previously you would get $1,000 per chicken dinner and you would want to send all 4 players in. So maybe they're actually being very methodical about the decision there.
Yeah, that's fair. In theory, a second place constantly on Sanhok over and over and over, if you're instigating the heal strat, is probably better than you gunning for a win and then getting a 4th place, or gunning for a win and getting a 5th place. So yeah, it ain't too bad.
Okay, well, we do have Erangel coming up next. It is one of our 2 Erangels of the day. Just want to double check that. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be double in Miramar. We've seen some kind of wonky islands, but more importantly, or not wonky islands, wonky zones, but we've also have had an update to a couple of specific positions around the actual map. Max, I know you touched on it a little bit yesterday, but did you want to go into those a little bit more again to remind people with the patch we've had, Erangel's changed a bit?
Yeah, I mean, you got Ferry Pier that's been completely changed. You got also Mill to Power, Mini Mill to Power in particular, that's been completely changed itself. So you got some big iterations to some spots of the map, and I believe also what has been applied in like the competitive map for Erangel is that you got some additions of some like bike sheds, which could work in a very similar fashion to like, for example, some gituns around the map that you can actually use as some extra coverage. So I do wonder if some teams have done some research on some of those spots and potentially if that's going to come to fruition in some way, shape or form. And also the crate weapons have been nerfed, so not the AUG, not going to be as broken, same for also the Grows, etc. So there's some pretty big changes that can impact the teams there.
So what's the bike shed called in French if it's not gitun?
The bike gitun.
Wow.
I was hoping you have a more unique name for it.
I might have to Google Translate. Actually, I haven't used a word like that in ages. I don't remember. I don't know.
Maybe I was wrong to call you French.
I was born in England, okay? I don't know why.
Well, there you go. But realistically, though, I mean, do you think teams have prepared or have anything in particular like ready to play when it comes to the changes, Clarus? Like in your opinion, obviously with patches that come out in any esport, right, you have to kind of adapt as quick as possible. But I feel like Erangel is a map you played so many times, have gotten so used to over the years that this can actually be a drastic change if we do have zones finish over like Ferry Pier, for instance.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it just favors basically the teams that have already dropping there, right? Like if you're already dropping a Ferry Pier and stuff like that, slight changes and adjustments there, you'll eventually be able to assimilate those differences quicker, and then maybe even, you know, if there's building etc and stuff like that for extra loot, you should be fine. I think maybe what it majorly changes to a degree is the value of crate weapons. I mean, obviously everyone's kind of running M4 anyway. People have their normal loadouts, bar the idea of crate loadouts anyway. So it just kind of improves basic loadouts even further.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you got weapons like also the, not the SLR, you got the SKS and also the Mini 14, they were buffed a little bit in terms of damage output, how you can control the recoil. Yeah. They can be a little bit more meta, but the fact that the M4 is still so versatile. If you want to see more versatility when it comes to weapons, nerf the M4, then you might see a little bit more of other weapons currently, but the M4 is just so meta, and it's very hard to contest right now. And also, you call it Garage à Vélo, so there you go. That's the word.
Lovely.
Yes.
I kind of liked Bikey Tune a little bit better, to be honest. But let's see what our commentators think, though. We're going to head to them right now. John Allen and Blink, take it away.
I don't know, man. I kind of like Garage de Vélo. It's quite nice, you know. It's
Garage de Vélo. Yeah, I do like that. I mean, that's where you whack them bikes, that's where you whack them helmets, that's what you got to do. That's what these teammates in this game have got to do as well from all these top teams in our lobbies is grab the bikes, get yourself in the circle, and get yourself set up in the garage, hopefully one with the electronic clicker, because you want to be able to close that thing on teams before they can get in. And that's exactly what the guys from MUERTE did last game, is they closed out that game like nothing we've ever seen before. I think I was talking yesterday, John, about how, you know, this is a team that has been blessed by circles in the past. This time around, you know, we get a lot of these central circles on Sanhok, which I personally love, by the way. I don't like hard shifts towards the end game of Sanhok. This is a wild change for me in particular. And MUERTE is able to run with it regardless. It looked really good. And again, like Jason said, self-handicapping, shot themselves in the foot by leaving Dadiev behind, still make it happen. Yeah, English is just a really, really fantastic player for that team.
Hey, they put those weights back on the legs and still somehow managed to win out the fight. They just absolutely did. They cleaned that. It was unbelievable. I can't believe that we were able to witness that. But a new game, a new set of points to be earned, and all of these teams going to be absolutely frothing at the mouth to get into this one, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's what we like to call a Rock Lee moment from MUERTE. But yes, absolutely frothing at the mouth here. Get over towards Erangel. Nice central plane path all the way across from Milter Power to the western side of the map on the coastline. So this allows a lot of teams to get into position. North side of the map a little bit more difficult to head over towards, but teams that like to drop Sosnovka should be able to get there nice and easy. MUERTE, you can see them playing at the moment. You can't see them, but we can. English was the first one to pop up, and why not? You know, MVP from that last game. He gets first dibs on when to drop out.
Going to be figuring out their directions. Plane path on the south side. The cars and vehicles will be available for the road drops going up towards the north. The circle yet to pop, so still very, very chill. Eastern Stars over to Milter Power, going out to the southeast side. We haven't seen them there in a while, if I'm not mistaken. They kind of have been on a little bit of a tour, but maybe back to basics for them.
I mean, with this circle in particular, they can drop Milter Power. A lot of times we've been getting some northern side ones where they'll drop up towards Stalba, Kameshki, which seems to work out for them, but then they will just head back down towards Milter Power. But because this plane drops immediately over this position and they know no one takes it over than them when they head down there late, they'll drop out. This gives them time to loot up and also time to leave Milter Power, which seems to be a little bit of a trouble there. South plane path, very, very north circle here. You guys can't quite see it on your screen, but we've got a ton of water still in this circle, and it's mainly Severny, which is in the central, which is crazy considering that's one of our most northern cities on this map.
Wow, that is a hard shift. That is certainly a wonky circle, I think, is how they put it over on the desk. See if these teams can wonk the right way.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to walk up there sometime. That is the thing you will have to be doing. But a lot of these teams will like to loot first and then move later. We'll see which teams are making their way up right now. It's Big, of course, who takes Severny most of the time. Unfortunately, at this point in time, John, I just don't have a lot of faith in Big at all. This was a team previously, Destiny, who dominated over on Sanhok. Now they can barely get a word in on that map other than the initial couple of eliminations over towards TJB. But again, I think that's more TJB than Big that allowed them to get those eliminations, considering TJB is probably one of our most volatile teams in the lobby in terms of performance. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe very bad. So I am slightly worried for this team.
It's not the greatest, but TJB not going to be playing in this game. They'll have that time to reset. Big, though, not so lucky. They will have to try and figure it out. Although, I mean, they did heal to second place over on Sanhok, but that kind, that's kind of just one of those things that sometimes happens, right? It's not really a testament to, I would say, rotational prowess to skill in the fight. It's just your last survivor. You have to go for the heal strat, and it worked out for them in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does really work out well. You don't get caught out. You can sneak your way in, and that's where those consistent points come into play. The other hand, though, it's not where you want to be a lot of the times. We're seeing that the heal strat is slowly being phased out a lot of these games. More and more teams are looking for those big wins on Sanhok, purely because there is now incentive to grab them in the league play. You're looking for more than just a position to get towards the finals in terms of overall rankings, win the top 16, but you're also looking for a high placing between the phases, so you get as many points as you can to get into the finals now. So you get that lead, you get that head start in those games. It's a fantastic change, and one that has really shooken up the lobby in a massive way. And I think that it's something that I'd like to see stay, and purely just for the safety of Sanhok, really, because I think that map was looking more and more dire as the time went on. But with this change, Sanhok is now a very fun map.
Yeah, it's not going to get the Vikendi treatment this time around, unfortunately.
No,
well, fortunately.
Out the window with that one.
Vikendi? Never heard of her.
Get her out of here.
Not going to be thrown out the map pool. Not just yet. Have to transgress further for that one to come into effect. Team Doom over in Ferry Pier. No one really challenging for this spot. ARB on that military island. No one in Novo either. So alone on that military island. Game Lord control Yasnaya, and the first entry now today for Ruthless Esports. They're coming in from Pachinki. They're dropping right in the middle of the map. They will have to move northwards, but this is the team that is challenging for top spots on the tables and top spots in points for PMGC.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things to consider here, is that with the way the PMGC rankings are shifting up at the moment, with Game Lord being ahead, I can't remember exactly how many points it is now, but it was 1040 at the beginning of the day, and I believe Ruthless Esports are currently at 908. This is ridiculous in terms of where they're currently sat. They are really picking up the pace, and with Game Lord falling off slowly but surely here, John, Ruthless Esports, if they can keep putting up those big numbers, I don't think it would be that much of a surprise if they could get into a top position in terms of PMGC points and secure themselves a place that way. This is a team that has been trying for PMGC for a very, very long time now, and have come back every single season under different banners, under different names, yet are still here. I would be overjoyed to see them pick up that PMGC placement through the placement points themselves of league play.
It would be nice. It would be, I would say, a just reward for their efforts. But Game Lord, Eastern Stars, they're not going to let this one go without a fight, although the fight has been a little bit lacking in both of those two teams as of late. It's not been the best. So hopefully they can step up. Was that little monster skin on the energy can? I think I've only just noticed that.
Oh yeah, you get those nice little monster energy cans over on Erangel now and again. You like to see it. I think that, for Eastern Stars, they looked strong. They looked really strong at the beginning of the day, or the beginning of the phase. One, that is. Goodness me. I'm not doing very good in terms of contextual basis of information here, but what I mean is right at the beginning of the tournament, they were looking really good. They looked like a solid team. Keme coming into Fall was making this cohesive unit, and it was very akin to something that you see from MADBULLS, right, who all have their own individual place to play on the team and are very effective. Unfortunately, these players just aren't as consistent as our guys in MADBULLS, who have rocked this lobby here in Western Europe, which has been incredible to watch, but I want to see more coming out from the Eastern Stars, because right at the beginning of the tournament, they looked strong, and they didn't fall off immediately like Game Lord. They still had some good games, but I do think that one thing that needs to be changed for these guys is the role of Athis on the team. I think he's a great flanker, but it needs to come into effect when it's necessary and when it's useful. I think that there's a great example you can take here from a team like Na'Vi, Monkey, who play Kitsune as an extremely good flanker for that team, but he does it when it's necessary. It's not something you need to do every single time, because he is leaving his team just high and dry too much.
Big, not quite used to having so many neighbours in Severny, but VIRTUS.PRO, SHOCKWAVE, both have moved up. Game Lord are just around the top of Stalba now as well. 4 Romanian men on the top of Stalba itself. So the eastern side looking a little bit dangerous for them. Their west will be the route of exit if Big decide to leave their Severny drop spot. A lot of teams flowing up towards the Georgia Pole crossings. 2 teams, Eastern Stars and MUERTE, both on that eastern side, moving up as well as teams start to crunch on in. This is what you get with a hard shift. Some of these rotational paths will be very, very popular.
A little bit awkward, to be honest with you. I'm not sure why we aren't seeing more teams head up towards Yad's Bridge, because most teams should know that Game Lord will instantly have left. XTEAM causing problems once again, by the way. This is back from Sanhok when they were causing them issues on the southeast side of the circle. And now MADBULLS are finding themselves in a tricky spot once again with XTEAM ahead of them. Monkey is down, but Zerish should be in a position to get him back up again. But they're on the edge of the circle, and this doesn't bode well for anyone. With Beg for Mercy in the back as well, as I was about to say. He's able to get some nice knocks once again, and that's the res not going off. Now the entire team of MADBULLS is split.
They don't even get the answering knock over onto Beg for Mercy. That could have evened up the numbers. Andy moving in for yet another off-angle effect and skill. Want to take this fight seemingly for now, but out in the blue. Need to reposition just a little bit. Tries to make the cross behind the vehicle and does manage to get to the burnt out Uaz. A nade being pulled as skill wants to pop the heel nice and high over the top, but it's the bullets from Nightmare to shut that one down. Beg for Mercy finally does get answered on towards it. It's MVP candidate effect now. Last player standing for MADBULLS. Can he get these knocks onto XTEAM? Logan goes down as well to his volley. Zerich being healed on up. Can they pick it up before the zone ticks him away? I think they can. They are close enough and they can get those heals. Andy left with Nightmare as XTEAM face off 2v2.
I mean, there is a real possibility that Skills gets back up on his feet if this nade can hit, and it looks good, does a ton of damage, and Effect will push on that.
Going around the side, UMP in hand, Andy falls. That's 3 for Effect now. This is why he's an MVP candidate, because he can stand tall in these sticky spots. Reposition came through. XTEAM just trying to res each other up, but they're falling as fast as they go up.
This is ridiculous here from Effect. The fact that he's able to pull that off, it's very patient as well. If Zerish had to go down there so he could get the second knock, he would have let him go down because he knows that the only success he can get from here is he can get further in the game. But quick knocks, instant nade over the top, pushes it with the UMP, knows he doesn't have a lot of time to get skills up, so has to press the initiative. Now MADBULLS, from a situation where it looked like they should be down to just 1 player, is now back up to 3 teammates strong, and XTEAM are behind them because they tried to take too many off angles there, and now MADBULLS can get ahead.
Jason's best friend in the whole wide world, Ingush, down. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Mr. Kaplan dropping from the plane to try and get this res. Ingush, unfortunately, but looks like they can get these reses on for MUERTE. Eastern Stars trying to put those nades up towards the top. A good fight from that last game was very, very fast for MUERTE. But it looks like they're stalling this one out. They're drawing it further, trying to get the Eastern Stars to move in towards them.
Yeah, they are on the backside, so Eastern Stars obviously rotating a little bit quicker than them, but that's a nice spray. Immediately, Flight gets out of the vehicle. Really, really well timed there, but there's the off angle from Bazzi with the DP.
It's on broadside, and now Athis spraying down the back of the vehicle as Dadaev tries to get away with Ingush there. Striker left alone in the building. Bazzi reloading on the DP. Can Eastern Stars reposition? Keme down. Athis against Striker. Now with Bazzi on the off angle, he can isolate these 1v1s if he's lucky. Striker might be able to make something happen here, but Athis absolutely on that corner, and Kapahala's there for backup. Striker back into the building, looking for that first aid.
Striker just had to live for a little bit longer because the off angles were just about to be in effect, but with MUERTE having to send away with 2 of their players, this is now a case where unless they do something drastic, Striker's going down and they instead opt to just rotate out of here, especially with that circle which sends directly up towards the northwest side. That's on the North Island at the moment across the bridge. Pioneer do go down to Big, who have made their way down to Severny to hold Box Compound of all places.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. MUERTE with 2 now in a little bit of a messy fight in that scenario. It was unfortunate. The western side, though, looking to get a whole lot messier with Big, MADBULLS, NEXUS playing the guard as well. This is what they were doing over on Sanhok. They were playing that PIONER bridge crossing. And as you say, they're now in the box compound. Over on the east of this scenario, but they bug out. They just leave. They get out of there.
MADBULLS know they need to get ahead of this one. With the 3 players they currently own, this is all a case of just getting position with the circle where they can. If Big is wanting to sit in box compound, they're hugely happy just to send straight past. XTEAM still following them though. We can see them behind in the blue, and Zerish should have spotted that just about. He was on the spin though, so maybe more preoccupied with trying to get the vehicle back under control.
They'll hear it if nothing else, and Big might be aware of this as well. They certainly should be. Beg for mercy. I think they spotted the rotation coming through from MADBULLS in front of them. So hopefully both of these teams are aware of each other. Taking a look at Pioneer in a fight with Big. Black-White gets out, gets the flush. This is a replay. So it was just a trade 1-for-1.
So the Pioneers players must have been falling fairly shortly afterwards. Maybe a false positive there for XTEAM, unfortunately, with MADBULLS so easily passing by Big that they think there's no players behind. So these crossings in the vehicles will have to be a little bit more speedy. Getting over this top side though, smart, staying on the edge of the circle at the moment where there's not a lot of angles that teams can take shots down towards them. This works out well for them at the moment. MADBULLS, however, they've made their way up towards shooting range, sending Effect out a little bit further down towards the south side to get some scouting done from the ridge that he's currently playing.
Will be able to spot out NEXUS in their position. And Effect, can he get back to the rest of MADBULLS? Unfortunately, they did lose Zerish over towards Na'Vi. And now they're playing as 2. Na'Vi on the north side. I'm imagining those predictions are starting to come in from our analyst desk as well, Blank. And I have to say, Na'Vi, again, in a pretty solid spot on that north side. But RUTHLESS as well on that south could be really, really troublesome.
Yeah, RUTHLESS made a speedy rotate, actually, towards the center of the circle. SHOCKWAVE find 1 player from MUERTE. That's as they're making the rotation. Remember, they're down to just 2 players, so there's only 1 remaining there in English, our top MVP from that last game. Coney from SHOCKWAVE, Kapahala has eyes on with the Mini 14. Will start taking shots now, but a little bit difficult to hit those with the DMR.
Not going to be able to find that. Victor, ooh, maybe not so lucky. This was the pick over onto Zerish. As Na'Vi skeet shoot him out the sky there. Nice little pickup coming through. Easy flush out.
Yeah, moving from the North George spot, this is quite easy for Na'Vi to take a position up here. Again, although they did go down in the final moments of a game that they felt that they should have won over on Sanhok, getting those numbers is still decent for them. It does still send them up the rankings slightly, and now they can start to play for a little bit more. Another central circle here. What a day. What a glorious day it is for us here in PUBG Mobile. Game Lord losing Alvalo. A nasty little shot from the DMR there, so maybe not as useful for taking players out the cars, but long distance, players behind rocks, peeking. You've got to be careful of that one if you are Game Lord. They will pick him up with Victor over on that side. There were predictions. I believe that was 2 predictions there from Max and Kalaris for RUTHLESS.
Yeah, and 1 from Jason, who's changed his tune over towards Na'Vi. NEXUS holding out against XTEAM. Beg for mercy. There's no hiding behind that. Not on that angle, unfortunately. XTEAM now down to 1. Na'Vi playing a really wide 2-and-2 split right now on the northern side. They're not being pressured for it, and in the vehicles they can reposition really quite quickly, but they're going to have to think about how to regroup and where to push in, because 4 Romanian men sit to the south of them, and they might even swing out to the west and try and clear NEXUS.
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst play in the world. RUTHLESS Esports caught under fire between them and QODEX and Team Doom, but Ulysses here with the nade in hand Team Doom all stuck in this small little area of the map on the ridge side. They are clambering upwards, but it's not easy. If you can bank the grenades off the side of this ridge, there could be some good shots. But again, the longer that Team Doom sat here, the easier it is for Ruthless to set up some beautiful nades. Salazar pops one into hand again. A little bit too short, though. These should be some easy grenades, and they're just not quite landing them.
Not quite on the target, unfortunately. Team Doom are so grouped up. It would be one nade from Big to see them gone, or Ruthless for that matter. Frosty, sprayed down by Beast. Ruthless reposition a little bit further north. They get to the buildings, and they're going to have a lot of strength from that hard cover from those sight lines. How can Team Doom be surviving this? Those smokes, they're going to fade out soon enough, and Beast is going to put a nade in. That looks to be pretty good. Could be right on target. Could be exactly what they're looking for, but it's a little bit off. Unfortunately, the cook wasn't great.
Yeah, it seems like Team Doom's got the Teflon pan out at the moment and is able to send these nades back from whence they came. Can't really quite find the nades onto them. Smokes just being a little bit awkward. You can see them jiving over there, just backwards and forwards still. Now it's just the shots coming through. Somehow, though, there is a shot coming backwards with the one-way almost over the top side of this smoke, working out well for them. They will go for the res, but Mickey is on the off angle. Now just one player remaining in Joe, and there should be lights out now for Team Doom. Again, I wouldn't pick up the grenades here. They've been fairly unsuccessful compared to just the good old M4.
Oh, speaking of the good old M4, look at that. Spray down absolutely rails the shots over towards MUERTE from QODEX. Team Doom, they do manage to get a res or two off, and now Joe's looking for the final one to bring them back up to 3. Easy, trying to cross open ground with a sliver of HP. It's not going to go well. Mihi shuts it down almost immediately and will flush it away as well. Information, sure, over onto Mihi's position, but they should have known that already.
Finally, the smokes dissipate there. Beast has general idea. Actually hits a fair few shots there. MUERTE has to edge out of the way. PNL, it's going to be dangerous for him to sit up. Another knock goes through onto them, so that's 2 players down. And again, finally, we do see MUERTE's massive off angle as a solo come to bear. He had eyes on, but Mickey was too slick with it.
MADBULLS, remember they've lost a couple players here, 2 of them already down. So they are playing as a duo. Ruthless on the south side, trying to control it, but Big trying to swing around to that eastern edge on this position as well. Ruthless have just been controlling all of these fights. They forced those fights between Big, between Team Doom, between QODEX as well. But now a couple of them are concluded. Big have other ideas.
I'm sorry, Tixie, what are you doing again? I mean, he's just sent straight through the middle of 4 Romanian men to regroup on that side. Alawi will pick up Matic on the rotate, and unsurprisingly so, just flew straight through their compound. Ruthless spots out Dorian on the cross. Meku also knocked now, so not able to shut down these 4 Romanian men on the north side, and it is not working out well for Na'Vi. Down to just 2 players now. Hopefully with some smokes, they will be able to get those reses off.
Get the first one, but Nexus is starting to fall as QODEX have their chance. With 2 players alive, they're finding the shots, and VIRTUS.PRO chime in for the third party. Nexus eliminated. Southeast side a little bit more open now for the duo from QODEX.
Big with 10 eliminations on this game. This is much more akin to what we're used to seeing from them, shutting down Pioneer early, and their wild style play going down towards the box compound has worked out well for them.
Tixie is on a tear against the 4 Romanian men. They are absolutely destroying that position, ripping it on open. Threading those bullets through the eye of the needle. Ruthless, though, now in a fight with the last 2 players. A couple of players from Big, and they will be looking to win it out as well. The south side has been very, very hostile for a long time now. Although they're only on 2 eliminations, they are looking for a whole lot more. Big have 10 eliminations right now with 3 of them alive, but it might be just too much to push past this. Although there's 4 nades on Mihi, this could be a little bit of an opening for them. Vito on the side swipe, thorn in the side.
They did get a nice refresh on the nades as well as the kit when in terms of taking down Team Doom. There 3 players just in the midst, but not many smokes would have been given their way. 600 damage total coming through for Tixie, who has, like you said, been tearing the can open at the moment and getting right through to the insides, finding exactly what he wants to. Shockwave, do you have a player on the ground? Nightmare with that nade could be precarious. Matic walks past it though.
Old goes down to it. Nightmare will not get that refrag just yet. Not get shot out. Finally, they spotted Mameku super low. The Molotov not going to tag the burn there. And Nightmare's still going. Nades continue to pour over the top, but Tixi handles business for them. Na'Vi still going with 4. They need to get Matic back up. They cannot afford to slow down as they did over in that Sanhok. Nades continue to pour on through, but Tixi's staying alive. The first aid was popped. Nightmare not resable right now. And in the back lines, they're still looking to keep themselves alive. Shockwave holding on in this fight against Na'Vi, but they're looking to turn the tides as well.
Now his position becomes all the more important with Circle moving up towards the northern side. Molotov through to the smoke, but Agoni actually peeks out and Tixi finds him. Not surprised that he found that as well. He was in the mid-swing of weapons. That'll be Shockwave out of the game, but English still could pose a problem.
Na'Vi absolutely dominate the fight there against Shockwave. Tixi doing a lot of work and looking for that refresh. Ruthless Esports now with the one player left standing gets taken out. The MADBULLS with 2 took them away. Sent them to the dance. And QODEX now with their duo looking for the 2v2 against the MADBULLS on the south side. Skills already a lot of damage. The cook from Vito wants to put it over the top. Skills is cooking one of his own. It's not looking great for him. And the nade finds the knock for Vito and does not get answered. They can look for this heal, look for that first aid. Effect left alone.
Again, though, Effect all on his lonesome, still can make something big happen, but he's out in the blue looking to get a first aid off before he runs in. So many smokes in front of him should give him the cover that he needs. Unlikely they'll get skills back up again, and Vito is able to find the shot off the side of the smoke there, taking down MADBULLS. But what a run that they've had. 4th place, despite everything that happened to them in that game. Na'Vi with 4, looking to close out the game and make Jason one happy man.
I mean, they wanted it over on Sanhok and they were denied. This time around, they're not going to be so lackluster. Tixi does get peppered away by Woodson. There is a duo from QODEX, and actually the knockover towards Tixi. Meku not able to find the angle. The smoke covers it off, but Woodson gets over aggressive there. Shut down for it. Yankee, last player from VIRTUS.PRO, with only Vito up the hill to keep him from getting to 2nd place.
This time Na'Vi takes as many angles as they possibly can, and Vito, all he can do is drop the smokes around the side, but it's only a matter of time before they find that final shot.
Only Yankee now left. VIRTUS.PRO should spot that. Meku on that ridge side. Not going to get sprayed down just yet. Nade from Kitsune. A little bit in front of it. Molotov trying to just burn him out. Any util you have, you know exactly where he is. You should be able to shut this one down. They're even going for the res. Na'Vi do not want to let this one slip in any way. Kitsune, though, shuts it out. VIRTUS.PRO go down, and Na'Vi pick up the chicken dinner. They were denied on Sanhok.
Really difficult push from Na'Vi as well. Little cover to play around with, pushing through 4 Romanian men as well. Very, very brutal game for Na'Vi, but nonetheless, they do pick up a fair amount of eliminations that game and are able to finish the game out with 4 players alive. Surprising, though, I would like to see a replay on that engagement between Ruthless Esports and the MADBULLS, because remember, that was basically a 2v4 unless they got shredded by some other teams on their approach. Incredible stuff, regardless, again, from MADBULLS, from Na'Vi, finishing off, and VIRTUS.PRO even get themselves a little snake to take the 2nd place there at Yankee.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Tixi was absolutely blasting on all cylinders there, though. Fantastic performance from a Titan on the Na'Vi roster. It seems like James might have been right towards the start of the day where he said, you know what, it was just one day. Na'Vi will be able to come back. These are the performances that we've come to expect from them. They weren't super loud in the Sanhok, surely, but they did manage to just control the areas around them. They did well. This time around, they were a little bit more in those fights. I think they finished on 15 eliminations, Blank.
Yeah, incredible stuff. 1,300 damage through from Tixi. That is a woo Kalaris moment if ever I saw one. But he does tend to be like one of those faulty lawnmowers. You know, you have to rev him up a little bit. Sometimes he doesn't get going. You really do have to pull hard on that core. But once he is going, dear me, does he tear up the composition.
Na'Vi still want to challenge for that top spot on the tables, getting themselves the chicken dinner on Erangel, not Sanhok.
Well, Na'Vi pull it through. They actually bounce back here. And like you said before, Claris, you think Na'Vi are going to do exceptionally well today. Not exceptionally well. You think they're going to do well today and recoup from their loss yesterday. And they've done it. First 2 matches looking pretty good here. They win the 2nd match of the day. And honestly, it's just been CIS. How many games in a row? We had all CIS yesterday.
7.
We've had 2 today.
Yep.
That's 7 in a row that CIS has won.
Yep.
Not bad.
not bad, and it's becoming a big problem for everybody else in the lobby. I'm going to tell you that much. This is kind of what we were expecting at the beginning of the tournament. We expected this region to come in and eventually dominate. Here we are. Now what is the rest of Western Europe going to do? Because this is getting scary. I mean, to be fair, Na'Vi could have had a back-to-back here, to be honest, but, you know, MUERTE, obviously from the same region, doing quite well off the back of the Sanhok as well. So 30 points going Na'Vi's way, and it wasn't an easy win coming up the hill here to try and get something done with it, getting themselves plenty of eliminations to boot.
Yeah, very southern playing path too. They had to like stretch their drop location. They didn't go for northern George Paul. They went to like the crates area of George Paul, then rotated away from that spot. South of shooting range, a lot of information coming their way because of that spot, so they could just make some really good decisions and rotations based on that intel. So yeah, I mean, I think it took the first phase for most of the CIS teams to get on track. The moment they like got used to the lobby, they had a game plan in mind. They're not going to move. They're not going to budge anytime soon. Like, these teams are just on top and they're not going anywhere right now. So yeah, Na'Vi, VIRTUS.PRO game stuff for second place. MADBULLS also not their best game, but still a 4th position, remaining consistent towards that 5 elimination per game average. Like, yeah, they're on top of the world right now.
Yeah, and you know who's also on top of the world right now? Me, because I have 5 predictions in a row correct.
You do?
Just saying, I'm coming for you, Kalaris. Maxman, I gave you that free win earlier on today, but I'm coming. I'm going to save us.
I think that's actually the best streak of predictions we've had ever between us 3 in any tournament. That's kind of ridiculous. So
it actually might be the best predictions streak that's ever happened ever in esports, funny enough.
Well, in PUBG especially, it can be a bit dicey sometimes when predicting PUBG mobile games, but yeah, 5 in a row is respectable.
So
I don't know.
We got 2 blessers and me. Like,
that's right.
How do I feel about that? Okay.
And the French. But let's maybe talk about something really quickly here that I noticed during the match, right? So we saw a Severny zone. Big typically like to drop Severny, and that's where they went. And then they rotated basically north of Ruins at the river. Now, if you look at Na'Vi, they dropped North George, and then they rotated into Severny. And when I brought up the big idea, you mentioned, Claris, that, you know, probably expecting the zone to shift away from Severny, and they're trying to get positioned to actually transition into the next zone.
Yeah.
But Na'Vi went like the other extreme, right? They went towards Severny, where the zone could easily shift away from them, and they'd have to continually fight back into the zone. So I'm curious on your thoughts about like how that played out for these 2 teams.
Yeah, so I understand with Big Spot right now, as we take a look at the highlights, why they took Cube Compound to potentially took Ruins and then moved to Cube and then to fought people there to try and kind of play the odds. Like, okay, if this shifts south of us, at least we can try and get south of the river. If it goes north, you know, we're already on that side of the river, and then we have an easy transition path anyway. Na'Vi is a team that is extremely and exceedingly confident in their team fight. So if they're taking an edge position like a Severny, for example, if you're fighting south from Severny towards kind of those hills, it's actually not an easy transition. So I'm kind of surprised by their kind of angle at which they're taking, but they seem so confident in their team fight and their ability to be able to make these transitions happen that I don't think it really hinders a team like Na'Vi at all. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. Also, to jump on what Big did this game, I think that because of how the playing path on the first phase circle went, right, because it was a very southern playing path, a very northern phase 1 circle, maybe their game plan was, and normally they don't rotate as quickly as what they did in this game, but here they went pretty quickly. Maybe the game plan is, let's go to Cube. It's a really easy position to hold on to, and if teams try and cross that position, maybe we can get some free limbs. I mean, they got the team squad wipe on the first game right on Sanhok earlier on TJB, so maybe they're feeling like a little bit on the streak and just like, okay, we're in a really bad spot at the bottom of the leaderboards. Only big results will help us actually climb high in the leaderboards to actually get points heading into the finals. So that could also be one of their decision makings, but it was at least, you know, some good attempt. And I feel like Big seems stronger as a team when it comes to fighting. Just when it comes to rotations, I think they still need to try and speed things up a little bit.
Yeah, the thing is as well is as you're comparing the both teams, Jason, if you're Na'Vi and you take an edge position and you're having to fight in and stuff like that, if you think that you're so proficient at the team fights, eventually you'll just gain a decent average points off the back of taking those team fights and probably getting yourself enough anyway, even if you don't get the win. But the fact that they get those team fights, the wins, and then the chicken dinner off the back of it, it's, yeah, huge for Na'Vi.
I wonder if they go into that northern position, Severny as well, because they know no one's going to be behind them as they push in. They only have to focus on
good too.
you know, the front battle instead of having to fight on 2 different fronts, which unfortunately Ruthless had to do with Big and with MADBULLS. But let's actually dive into Navi's player stats really quickly a little bit further, just to see who was really standing out for the team. We saw Tixi earlier on today when it came to, I believe it was Sanhok, having some good performance, and wow, doing it again.
That's, yeah, wild. What did Blank say? Like an old lawnmower needing to be wound up or something like that. But he is absolutely tearing apart the lobby when he gets going. That's not a lawnmower. That is an absolute chainsaw of a performance coming in from Tixi, I think.
And currently MVP of the day also. I just checked the stats. He's on top. I mean, Na'Vi, you got himself a 3rd place on that first game. Tixi was one of the top performers for the team in that match, and he's there once again on this time around. So yeah, I believe in Tixi's supremacy since day 1, and still today I do believe in it, and he is popping off, and Meku and Matic still getting himself a few limbs, and here we go. That's my meme is back and relevant. I was scared yesterday. I was like, my meme is not good anymore. We can't use it, but it's now we're back in full swing, so it's good. Yeah, Na'Vi looking great in phase 2.
Good job, Max.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm going to criticize it because I don't think Navi's in first place, Max, and it says 1.
Because I did it like last week. Okay, and we had like a big break. Okay, it was posted a long time ago, so cut me some slack, please. But it's a meme. Leave me with my memes. They make people go haha, and that's all I want. So.
Okay, I'll cut you some slack. Let's take a look at overalls just really quickly. Maybe just the top page. I'm just really curious to see if we've had any shuffle of teams. We've obviously seen Unicorns Love towards the very top, but they have fallen off. Hey, your meme lives, Max. There you go. Navi's in first.
Even more relevant. I like it. If only I could see in the future as much when I do my predictions, but I can't. But yeah. Na'Vi 5 chicken did so do, and overtaking them. Unicorns of Love actually falling from 1st to 3rd now. Ruth is still in 4th, but yeah, seeing how PIONER and MUERTE have been able to improve over time, I wouldn't be surprised to see those 2 teams also be above and beyond. So yeah, CI is still dominating right now.
Well, this is the scary thing for Unicorns of Love for me, Claris. If Crypto's not dropping 17 eliminations in a day, they're having a tough time, and that's what he did yesterday.
What they're going to do, It's not been too easy at all, and I mean, they were sitting out that last game, right? So at least they've got 3 more in hand to try and push themselves up.
True.
Okay. Well, I think it is time to head over to our commentators. It's going to be Miramar, only Miramar of the day, and we'll find out if Jason Kaplan can continue his prediction streak here right after this.
Man, if only anybody cared about Jason's prediction score, that would be wow. That would be something. No, I'm joking. I mean, of course we care. As long as Kelaris is beating him, we absolutely do care.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I mean, I'm sorry, Kelaris. I didn't mean it. He's not an old lawnmower. He's in fact an Ego LZ6 0-turn ride-on mower. Okay, look, right, with the delivering the equivalent horsepower of a 22 horsepower petrol engine. All right, okay, so he's got replaceable batteries. He's ready to go whenever you need him. That's all that matters for Tixi, and he's delivering 10 eliminations per game, and he's MVP. All right.
Does he have a detachable mulch bag?
He does, yeah.
Oh,
All right,
wow.
okay. So, you know, you can keep this guy going no matter the conditions, no matter the weather, no matter whether it's hot here on Miramar, marshy over on Sanhok, or just a cool breeze on Erangel.
I don't know how to feel about this metaphor. I feel like we were going towards the chainsaw, and then you brought it back all the way to the lawnmower. The ride-on is going well for Na'Vi, and they're riding on up to the top, to be fair. All the 2s, the ducks in a line for the total points on this phase. They're back to that first half scoreline.
I mean, they're certainly riding the Tixi hype. That's all I'm saying, dude. That's all I'm saying. Looking at the playing path, though, oh, it's awful. It's so nasty. Puerto Vallarta down towards La Driera here, so really, really quite south. So a lot of the north side of the map quite unavailable to these teams, at least early on, until they get themselves some vehicles available for themselves. We'll see what they can grab early on, but we'll obviously have to check in with a lot of these teams that head up towards that northern side of the map. Na'Vi would like to head up towards La Cabrera, but that's going to be shunted here in terms of the planning, and they'll have to pick themselves up some vehicles. Obviously, one of the major dangers here on Miramar when you're grabbing vehicles is that a lot of these spawns are few and far between, so you might have to drop on one another to grab them.
Teams on the south side, potentially a little bit more clustered up. Already early towards Impala for Romanian men. Take Aim Gaming did drop even further north than this. I think you can see them just on up there on the northeast side of Impala. So grabbing some vehicles, potentially going all the way up the circle, southwest shift.
Not as bad as we thought it would be, especially after our south plane path and the northern shift over on Erangel. This is a little bit nicer to a lot of these teams, and they can play around this one effectively. Does mean that a few of these guys can actually just grab some of the compounds within the circle itself and not have to worry about heading too far north. Again, it's all about that looting, really. That's the danger. I would like to not see this.
I mean, Death Machine and ARB fighting in Picado. Who would have thought it? It's just... no one's giving up. Someone needs to give up. And then they can both play the game, you know?
I just don't like it. I mean, I'd rather look at some of the other teams and some of their rotations than this, which is... It is stubborn. It really is. It feels like it's gone back and forth now. Now it's Death Machine who's on top, who figured things out. The nades, they scare me, dude. They scare me.
Yeah, not scared at all, goes in, but maybe he should have been. Micro Uzi around the side is good, and Emodi, sliver of HP, taken out. Hang on a minute, was that? No. That was a different engagement on the elimination feed. I thought that was a third party coming through. Look at that. QODEX and RUTHLESS actually coming in for a little scuffle. They had the Winchester in that fight as well. Love a little Winnie.
Yeah, ye old Winchester. A nice little headshot there over towards RUTHLESS Esports. Did not like that. Lin runs himself over. Nothing to see there. Now just Hamo and his mate Jamaz remain on the top side.
Hamo tries to hold off, but 3 players from MUERTE are pushing. Hang on a minute, there's an off angle. There's an M249. 1 and 2 and 3 go down, I think, there for Death Machine. No, just the 2 on that engagement, but a really nice hold on the corridor. Over-aggressive from Death Machine, and nobody wins in this fight. Again.
Yeah, it's a good smoke, good setup from Hamo and Jamaz. I just don't think this is going to go well. I like the NASA just grabs the nade there. He's like, oh, that'll be useful. I like that. Especially the guys upstairs pretty much just working with bandages at the moment. No first aid kits. You can see there Jamaz is desperately trying to get himself back up to full health. Here's Ultra now with the nade, trying to think of the best way to place this one in. Could go outside and try and toss it up high, but then you risk nading one of your teammates, which seems to be a casual thing here.
Ooh, Hamo nearly finds the peak onto NASA, but not quite going to be able to do it. Jamaz on the outside. They're watching for these flush outs. Ultra shuts the door. They kind of have to push up the stairs in this scenario, but they also can't do that because the M249 will just gun them down if they make that push. They make that decision. It's a little bit of a stalemate here. Someone needs to find something in order to give them that advantage.
I mean, being in the circle, neither of these teams really has to move. And I think the onus, like you said, is on Death Machine. If our Arabian Champion's just upstairs, they can sit here all day long. And every time one of these players like NASA or even Hamodi or Ultra want to sit outside and try and take a nade peek, that's not going to work out well either. NASA, though, drops down. This is a smart player. I like this. All right, you're a cool cookie. I see what you're doing.
Oh, gives the game away. Jamaz should know about this. Maybe he doesn't think there's a player out there. Oh, definitely does now. Spotted the helmet. They know that there's a player on that balcony. NASA can fade away and go for the nade again. Look at that. That's info gathering. And they're going to pay the price for it. Almost certainly.
Is he still just going to hold this?
Jamaz, he must spot that nade. I mean, Jamaz did nothing and then died. Not entirely sure about that.
He was setting it up for so long as well, you know?
So he sent him a letter that was like, can you please respond with your current whereabouts through the snail mail? It got there. He wrote down the answer, sent it back all the way through the snail mail, and still didn't move before the nade came.
I mean, it was the case that he kept going out and then lying down. Like, what did he expect him to do? Just dry peek him? Like, was never going to happen. Anyway, finally we can remove ourselves from what is one of my least favorite engagements throughout the entirety of the Western Europe tournament. Seems to always end with some kind of shenanigans over that side, be it a nade, self-nade, or just a nade that's telegraphed for about 2 minutes before it's sent over. I think even the players from Death Machine was surprised that worked out.
Big. Taking shots over towards Ruthless. But not really finding much more than that, other than the presence in very central positions. This hillside, this rumbly, bumpy couple of hills is going to be pretty effective if the circle keeps going central.
Salazar actually does get eliminated this game. So Ruthless down to just 3, and slowly they are losing the lead. So Unicorns all over the top were overtaken by MADBULLS by a single point. Na'Vi firmly back in first position.
First position for Na'Vi. Not fully secure right now, but, you know, it's a nice little lead to have there. The teams you don't want chasing you are the MADBULLS and the Unicorns. Love right at the top of those tables, right, on those points. About 11, 10 points between the first place runners right now.
Yeah, the 222 is a nice number. I like that.
Yeah, it is. It's all the ducks in a line, right? It's pretty. It's good. Enjoyable.
Big moving up towards Ruthless. They will have to send maybe some nades or even challenges just a little bit. See Pocus there with a nade in hand, sends it over towards Mozero, drops back, but will have to deal with SHOCKWAVE and moves immediately over the top, and no one's there to even attempt to support him. And that will leave Ruthless down to just 2, with Big starting to move over the top just a little bit. That could be a nice nade, but it's directly in the middle. Does find at least one, though, onto Beast, and does a bit of damage over towards SHOCKWAVE. Again, Manu's going to try and send another from that cool little spot that he's got there on top of the crate. Expects a push and will molly it. I think he was maybe thinking that Big would be a bit more aggressive than they actually were.
He backed off by Ulysses as well. Manu repositioned towards the back, but spotted by Mazzaro. And taken down. Ulysses, last player for Ruthless. It looks like Big, I mean, they've been doing okay in these engagements, but they just haven't been getting these consistent positions to be able to find these fights. Because, I mean, they're taking on Ruthless, one of the strongest teams in this tournament, and they're winning it out. They're harrying them down. They're hampering them. They're in central position in this next zone. Why have they not been able to achieve this before?
I mean, this is where they drop usually. I mean, Ruthless are down to 3. It's a little bit awkward with losing that one player. Nade back onto himself, but that could be actually really big.
Oof. It's
too long to pop, fortunately.
Yeah. It's not the biggest of cooks. I mean, you don't have time. You just got to put it out and try and put the cat amongst the pigeons, right?
Yeah, and try and get something done. I think if he cooked it a little bit earlier, maybe it could have done something pretty cool there, but instead just tosses out. I think he tried to get it down the stairs and prevent the push, but it was already coming at that point. Big, I think this looks nicer. Again, they seem a bit more, you know, quick with it. I think last game in particular, even taking that Big down towards box compound was an interesting play, but one that did work out well for him. I think that I'd like to see something more like that in future, where they're just making these wacky moves. Again, Chumacera, this is where they typically drop anyway, so they're trying to control the majority of this area anyway. QODEX coming down. This is another team that they'll have to face off against. They're down to 3 players, I believe, at the moment. No, 4. Still have all of them on board.
Death Machine breaking out the bike. Sure, there's not that much protection, but you are moving fast, and hitting those shots onto the moving target at that speed can be difficult. Eastern Star's not able to do so. Not this time around. Death Machine dropped 2 out of the compounds. Are Eastern Stars aware of this? They should be. There's players right next to the position. Well, certainly one player. For Kapahala, it's a 1v2 right now with oversight, with overwatch from both of the teams heading towards this compound. A reposition coming through from the Eastern Stars. NATUS not able to spot Ultra. Keme might be able to, but certainly is going to know about that position now. Death Machine with 3 players, disadvantage here.
It's a good push out from Keme as well because he wants to stop the southern push from Death Machine. It's realistically the only place they can go. They can head back up the way they came, but I think that they most likely wouldn't want to do that. So they're pushing out into blue now. I think for Keme, there's a case where maybe he gets at least 1 knock and leaves it at that, which does clear out some more of this eastern side for the Eastern Stars, but unlikely he'll hit these.
Keme doesn't get the knock. They just fall back, and Eastern Stars can start to push in a little bit more central on the northwestern side. This is on the West Coast Road, or not the coast, the West Edge Road. Game Lord and Take Aim Gaming moving in. Take Aim Gaming on the back of that train. Game Lord have posted up a little bit further south, but I think they did just mount. Yeah, they just mounted up and started going in a little bit further. They could run into De Muerte because we are right on top of this valley. Blank. The Ladriera Valley is so brutal.
There's 2 really good positions here, and I mean, Unicorns of Love is taking one of them. De Muerte's already posted up in another. Big has a decent God compound to mess around with, but TJB are coming up close to them, and immediately Sal's sent away, scouting this spot, but not a very good scout in my opinion, considering he just immediately gets taken out. That's a bold peek there from Mickey being that low.
Takes it nonetheless. TJB lose a player on the north side. They have got a little bit of sanctuary for the time being. Miki doesn't want to burn those first aids just yet. Has 11 bandages. That's reasonable.
Game Lord decide not to head up towards De Muerte's posted. I don't mind that. Yeah, he's fine.
I think he was wedged there. Maybe just about able to get out of it. It's for Romanian men. Slowly getting up the hill. Certainly not running.
Interesting spot from Gonzo. He's actually directly ahead of Na'Vi at the moment, but far away from the rest of his team. This is on the other side of the valley. So right now, Unicorns of Love are holding the east peak, whereas Gonzo's just on the western side, but right on the lower ground. So maybe just watching out for some of these rotations coming through. Looks like Na'Vi wants to challenge for the western side. Game Lord's picked up maybe not the best compound within this one, but it is still a very good one to control. Take Aim Gaming are going to struggle getting down from Monte Nuevo to this spot without being shot at by Game Lord if they see them.
Unicorns of Love on the south side. You said they were moving into one of the stronger positions for this valley. They're going to be looking to hold it out. Crypto, a major force for this squad. Currently holding on the northern peak of their formation. Gonzo is all the way out in the blue, actually behind, not quite behind for Romanian men, but certainly out to their west, holding in the buildings to the southwest of Unicorns of Love's position. You can see a little regroup coming in now. Icy has an off angle. They know the 4 Romanian men are coming this way.
Yeah, Gonzo is holding on the western side, just underneath. I think he was picking up information on teams that were heading that way. Next circle moves up, and now this forces Unicorns of Love to travel slightly further north, but they will have to be careful. Again, a lot of teams on this eastern side, so this is a case where Unicorns of Love immediately have to get into position. I like this play from Rollkiss. Is going to try and eliminate as many of these angles as possible. Instead, moving all the way to the west. This is interesting.
Not really too many players taking shots there. Only actually De Muerte with sightlines onto this rotation. Death Machine did get caught out in the open, and I mean, Athis nearly took down that spray. NASA did get flushed out as well. The Eastern Stars pick up those points. TJB still on the struggle bus. Unicorns of Love managed to make that crossing. actually relatively unscathed. All 4 of them still alive, still going. Na'Vi took a knock as they swung around all the way to the west, and they're fighting out Take Aim Gaming on the north side.
Matic goes down, but that's Game Lord taking shots into this one as well, so they're causing chaos. And again, that's that high peak towards that northern side, which actually has paid dividends to Game Lord, considering the circle moved up this way, and now this becomes one of the top spots within the lobby to be holding out to. Unfortunately, it's right on the edge of the circle, so at some point they will have to move. That might be a case of sweeping down towards the south along the ridge. Unicorns of Love instead decide that, you know, that lower ground is maybe the place to be.
Looking at which teams could be predicted here. I mean, I feel like you've got to talk about MUERTE after their performance earlier today. Game Lord as well with that high ground. And Kitsune, last player for Na'Vi, suffering the crash here. Tries to go for the drop shot, but it's not going to be fast enough. Na'Vi taken down, eliminated on the west.
Yeah, Flight just plays that cautiously there. MUERTE, unfortunately, only 3 players dropped into this map for them, losing English as well. So one of their heavy hitters not in the game, and that really does hurt them. Unicorns of Love, again, decent spot to play around with. This all comes down to whether we get that central shift again or if we get one of these nasty ones. If it heads towards that western side, you know, it's a big battle between a lot of these western teams for competition of some of the best spots. VP managed to get themselves just slightly in towards the south side early on and have just rested there for quite a while.
A little bit of time there. Mihi down. Close to effect, but the MADBULLS trying to keep on going with 4. Want to look for these reses. Beast repositions for the res. There's a nade over the top from Monkey. Is it going to be long enough? Is it going to be on target? Not quite. Didn't actually catch those predictions that came up on the left-hand side. I was watching the nades fly over from MADBULLS over towards Big's position, and they keep pouring them in, and they keep doing this damage. That was a little bit high up in the air there. Mazzaro and Beast are going to try and cope with one another. SHOCKWAVE a little bit further out. Ultra, actually, from Death Machine. Potential to spray that one down. No, gets spotted. Zarek takes it down.
Yeah, Big's just sent away. And again, this is the issue that we see Big fall into many, many times, just getting themselves caught out in odd spots where, remember, they controlled a lot of the circle early on and yet didn't go for any of these high prio positions around the valley itself. And instead have caught themselves on the eastern side, in which case MADBULLS have had to push down very, very far to get into this position. Central circle, this is a good time for Unicorns of Love to move, but currently they're facing off against XTEAM, who are giving some issues towards them. They are down to just 2 players. 1 player is down on the floor, and they do finish off XTEAM there finally, and we'll be able to regroup on top of Crypto. It's just slightly towards the north. I think that was Game Lord coming through for Kalaris, as well as Unicorns of Love for the 2 boys of Maxman and Kalaris, who are Maxman and Jason. Obviously, Game Lord, big vouch for them from Kalaris here, but they do have to push their way through Eastern Stars as they make their way off the hillside. But already, Robs gets taken down with a nasty ping to the head there.
Unfortunate. It looks like Game Lord are trying to play 2 up, 2 down, but the 2 who went down currently suffering heavily. Kame, though, on the inside against Akashi, and remember, there is oversight from the players up top for Game Lord. Rob's potentially in a resible position here. Nade being cooked, popped out the window on the upper floor. Breaks up the door, and a player comes in for backup now. Kapahala moves around the side. Akashi pops the first aid. Kapahala trying to suppress these angles and try and get Athis back to his feet. Playing as 3, you do not want to be letting this one go down. Rops did manage to get back up as Victor sent in to go for backup on Game Lord. Athis still down. Kapahala not able to get this res just yet. On the outside, there's a third party. They should have seen those shots come through, and Akashi sprays on in around the corner. Wants to go a little bit aggressive with it. Teammates going down, and now 1 player left. Game Lord stay alive. All 4 of them there. But Kame still upstairs. 1 of them knocked. No nades for Keme to put down the stairs.
Nice nade. I mean, that was a hold and a half as well from Akashi, intending to send that up the stairs with the instant bounce and get the quick explosion on it, but instead holds onto it, moves outside, tosses it through the window to predict the reposition coming through from Keme. So I really did enjoy that there. Unfortunately, Narvala does go down on the top side. Unicorns of Love still trying to hold on as best they can with just the 2 players they own. But VP, again, they were resting, but have now finally woken up from their hibernation and picked up one of the strongest strongest spots within the circle. They do lose one player at least. This is Monkey from MADBULLS. They are down to 3 players. One player is down on the floor from Zerish. Unlikely they'll pick him back up as he is bleeding out inside the blue. But how much more can the MADBULLS do from that precarious position?
3 players alive for them as well. No teams with 4 right now, and at the moment, MUERTE have the high ground. VIRTUS.PRO a little bit further down than they are. Game Lord, they all descended to go for the backup onto that 2-up, 2-down split. So now they are trapped in the valley, but the circle shifts down south, so everybody is also going to have to make that break. VIRTUS.PRO control the teams up to their west.
This really helps out MADBULLS the most, because if you saw where they were, they had a smoke and a bus, and that was basically all of their cover. Now they can try and swing down towards the south side as all these rotations start to come through. You'll see many teams backfilling on towards VP's spot, in which case their eyes will be away from the MADBULLS. They just have to wait for a little longer. They'll hear the shots, they'll look for the team fights going on, and then they'll make their move. Unfortunately, the circle is just pushing them at a very slow pace, considering on the slow side of the circle. But VP, this is really smart from them. They know that MUERTE is going to be a threat towards them, but they also have to hold MADBULLS out, because even at 2 players in this position, they could cause some real problems for them later on in the game.
3 players up the hill for MUERTE, but they're really far spread out. I'm waiting to see what Game Lord are going to try and achieve here. They've been grouped up in the corner of this compound for a while now. It looks like Robs is going to be the first to break here. Kashi sends in second. Both MUERTE and VIRTUS.PRO send their shots in. Robs moves forwards, makes it to the foothills now, and might have some sort of cover, but just rolling around, not really finding any safety. Tulika very, very close, and in comes the backup. A rock is spotted, effect suppressed, and Game Lord might have made it forwards with 2.
8 eliminations there for MADBULLS, so not a game either way you look at it. MUERTE with only 3 have kept all 3 players back up and kicking with 8 eliminations also. Nade's going down the hill, but it's going to be difficult to kind of nestle that grenade in between the rocks there. Now, this is the moment where VP are going to look towards MUERTE as they come off the hillside. Effect finally goes down, 12 points for them, a good game overall. And it's really difficult. 2 teams with 3, 2 teams with 2. I'd say the 4 Romanian men can just hold this one out for a little while longer. Nice nade over towards Flyke, and that will initiate the push from VP.
Gonna move up high. They know they've got rid of effect over on the other side, so they can take these fights a little bit more aggressively, potentially. Without that third party. The res coming through from MUERTE. They really don't want to lose that player, and rightly so. Striker, though, a little bit isolated. The Molotovs to the back deny him that movement. Gets in the buggy instead, and gets away with it. Moves around to the north, but this is right out into the open. Striker, you can't be making a move like that and expect to get away with it. Yankee shuts that down, lickety-split. Game Lord with 2 players still surviving, and 4 Romanian men now have sightlines onto this ridgeline. Dadeev into the smoke, somehow dodges all those bullets from Malawi.
Flyke left behind, though, could get a nice backstab over towards VP. Unfortunately, it goes terribly for them, and Flyke does his job. Now Dadeev has to just try and keep healing up, but not really anywhere for him to go, and 4 Romanian men starting to strike out 6 eliminations. Game Lord, though, have circle, but really, what are they going to do with it? The position they're in is almost comical.
They do have that ridgeline. If they can move up to the roadside without Dadeev taking them down, they have a chance here. That incline away from the road is the cover they're going to need to be able to leverage. Do they have the smokes? Do they have that pressure? Look at this, 4 Romanian men actually maybe giving Game Lord that chance. Dadeev just hits the deck and stays alive again for just a moment more. You need to cross the road for 4 Romanian men now.
Someone had to be on the lookout there for Game Lord, and I'm so glad that Victor spotted it. He had to see where those bullets were going. Now they move up. 2v2. The question is, can Game Lord make this one happen? He's only got 1 first aid kit in the tank here, but a level 3 vest should keep him a little bit healthy. 2 more grenades, and they have to be decent. Get at least a little bit of damage done towards them, because remember, like you said, John, 4 Romanian men, they will have to cross the road. So nades maybe come out a little bit sooner. That initial one is for a bit of information. He knows he's not crossing through the middle next to the shack. Again, Victor, this is one of our top players from last season. We haven't seen too much out of him, but that's a nice nade from Robs. That starts things off out very, very strong.
And there's no way that you can go for this res over onto Olawi, not without him crawling all the way back. 2 players. They know the position from Andre, and the blue zone is there. This is all but done. Game Lord should be able to shut this one down. A nade towards the back is going to bounce twice, and with it, take down both of the players for 4 Romanian men. It is Game Lord with the chicken dinner, the sneaky plays they send in, they play off one another, and they make it work.
Yeah, it's a hugely dangerous push to make as well, but the timing there was key. They waited for the smokes coming through from MADBULLS to try and keep their position under wraps so VP couldn't take shots at them. VP, on the other hand, you got to give them credit, right? They were all over that. They were looking up towards the MUERTE. They were trying to keep a handle on MADBULLS as well, but that kind of like cross-communication really doesn't work. Their attention was massively split, and because of that, Flyke's able to stay behind and get a nasty backstab onto them, in which case Chulika doesn't go down to the bullets, but he does go down to the blue because he has to stand there for just a little bit too long. Regardless though, in all that moments, it's Game Lord to make that push over towards that rock, and really good awareness from Robs to find that position and then start to move out of it, and then they leverage from the roadside play. Look at him, he looks so smug of his 2 grenade eliminations there to finish out the game. Beautiful stuff. And Kalaris, that is one hell of a wild card prediction, again, coming out from him. They've done little to nothing throughout this entire tournament, yet he has faith.
I mean, that's why he's in the lead, right? That's why he's in the lead on those predictions at this point. So, you know, good stuff. You love to see it. Keeping the other 2 down, keeping them in their place, you know, making sure that he asserts dominance over those prediction tables as Game Lord, from a very weak, fairly weak position, managed to assert dominance and take the chicken dinner here as well.
Well, as John said before, who cares about predictions anyways? Kalaris getting the Game Lord. I have no words.
Come on, this one wasn't bad, eh?
They've had one. They've had one podium placement this entire phase in a 3rd place, and then
11
they just
days
get a victory here
since the last win, and he gets it when they get the win. So, yeah.
What happened to you, Frenchman? Where was your faith in the Frenchies?
Yeah, they had a good spot, but I thought the Unicorns of Love were going to be quick on their rotation, and they were not. They just got bullied outside of the circle, like me on this desk when it comes to predictions. So
I get it. I think they've burnt you quite a bit in this past phase, but you know what? I liked their spot up on the high ground that they had north. I thought that maybe they had a bit of room to work with, but I was quite fortunate towards the end, I think.
Good to see Victor do well, especially too. I think the Victor, we wanted to see him pop off, especially him being one of our top players of the last season, and he was in good swing of things, so good on Game Lord, but I don't want to see like a repeat of phase 1 where they get that 1 win and that's it, right? I want to see a follow-up. I want to see more after it, and if they can do so, Game Lord might be able to catch up a little bit and avoid losing that top place for PMGC, so they need to hold on strong.
I mean, this is it. Mark your calendars. This is the day that Game Lord has come back. They're going to win the rest of the matches today. They're going to be top 12. We're going to see Game Lord defending their position, #1 points in PMGC. Obviously, kidding aside, that is a very important aspect of it, right? If they need to perform, they got to start doing it soon, or teams will catch up to them. And they will get surpassed, and they'll lose the opportunity to PMGC.
I think a lot of the battles that occurred in this game for Game Lord specifically felt very previous season of Western Europe, if you think about it, right? They're rolling down into the compound, they go up against Eastern Stars. The final moments, they're going up against four angry men.
Or angry Romanian men.
That's right.
They were angry when they lost.
Exactly. For Romanian men, right? So all of the effective victims from the Game Lord eliminations coming in felt very previous season. There wasn't really too many hurdles in their way when it came to the newcomers on the block. So Game Lord getting the victory here felt old school to me.
I do want to correct myself really quickly. They actually had 2 podium finishes, a 2nd place as well as a 3rd place, and then this victory, but in phase 2 only. But Max, like you said before, 11 days since they won, and it's unfortunate times, but hopefully for them they can maybe start to improve off this. Maybe it's the confidence boost they needed. As we look through the rest of the list, though, Na'Vi, Ruthless both having a rough time here on 0 points apiece, and maybe to hit on Unicorns of Love as well, Max, as you mentioned, Crypto, like towards those final zones, had a really good position. But Unicorns of Love just didn't seem to rotate on top of them.
I mean, even before that, they have such a good high ground position towards that Chumacera southwest position of Miramar. A lot of intel coming their way. They start moving in really good spots, and then they have this split, which, sure, then the Valley area is very depending on if the circle goes their way, which it does. One of their players, Crypto, as you said, is inside the circle. All the team has to do is get their cars ready, cross to where Crypto is, and you're in a golden spot. But they take so long to make that rotation happen that Crypto at least just gets banked on by the side of 4 Romanian men. So, and you can see how far 4 Romanian men went. If they go in that spot, minimum second place normally, because they can gatekeep 4 Romanian men. So, yeah, Unicorns of Love, I think a lot of indecision there that did cause their demise, but I think if they were just a little bit quick on their feet, second place could have been definitely coming their way. But yeah, didn't quite happen this time, and yeah, Game Lord get the win when Kalaris predicts them. So
The blesser, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Still important though for Game Lord either way. I mean, I think we said many times we see them as, at least when it came to last season, the best team in Western Europe. Obviously, TJB ended up winning and advancing through to the European regionals. But Game Lord eyes, I mean, the league phase they played was phenomenal. But then they just kind of disappeared ever since. And maybe this is what they need to get back into the mix of things, obviously losing Trazen over to Shockwave. But we'll see. I mean, Game Lord still have a lot of work ahead of them. We're still not like fully convinced, I'd say, that this is a team that can contest and can compete when it comes to PMGC. But as you hop into their player stats, at least we know Victor's back to, kind of back to his old self. Navarro, though, still being a little bit quiet.
Yeah, I think I've just been looking back at the map sequence and their moves towards this circle, and it seemed a bit more rapid compared to our criticisms at the start of the day, where, like, obviously for, I would say, a full phase worths of time, we've watched them and thought, they're slow, they're slow, they're slow. We need more rapidity in their actions and in their movements. And I think watching this game, there was a bit more of that. So that's why I need to see from Game Lord, and that definitely carved them out a decent spot to be able to push towards a victory here, which is obviously very important.
I also feel because of the playing path, right? It was very southern. They tend to like to drop for a more northern location, right? So they knew they had that space available for them. So they could enable themselves to speed up the process a little bit. I think that what Game Lord need right now is confidence. We knew it. We saw in the past, right? This is a team that can frag out. They got some good synergy when it comes to taking a fight, but I think they just need confidence, and hopefully this win is what it's going to give them. But we saw what happened in phase 1. They kind of fell off after that win. So I want to see, as I already said earlier, I want to see more followed up after this win. If they can do so, maybe they can be back on track, but there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered here for them.
Yeah, I think for them, they should just be gunning for a top 12 position here again to get into our Livik match at the end of the day tomorrow. Try to earn some extra points going into the finals, because again, at the end of each phase, if you're first place, you get 20 points. Second place, 19 points, and so on and so forth. And that goes straight into the finals, adds up every single week. And then, of course, at the end of the 3 phases, the overall total gets you an extra 20 to 1 point, or to 0 point. I guess 1 point's technically the bottom. So very important for them, again, to defend their title. I want to say those 20 points that they could get if they place first go into the PMGC ranking as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
They don't. Bonus points don't count for PMGC ranking, 100%.
I don't know if I trust you. Kalaris, I would trust you.
No, absolutely not. Bonus points do not contribute to the PMGC rank.
Wait,
okay, cool.
Said the same thing.
Appreciate you being the admin here and giving us that update. We are going to be heading over to Sanhok next. It's going to be our second match of the day. And we have a team coming in. Who was it you were talking about at the start of the day? It was Group E was going to be sitting things out here. And I wanted to see actually... yeah, so we'll have Eastern Stars, we'll have Ruthless, ARB Champs, and Game Lord in this match. And then we're going to be having, who's going to be sitting out? Which
Group B. So VIRTUS.PRO, QODEX, Big, and 4 Romanian men not there. With Big not being there, of course, that means that obviously the Northwest Island becomes a bit more of a focal point for these teams, trying to jostle for position up there.
Yeah, good spot for TJB.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if you think Max TJB is going to look towards that Northwestern Island yet again here.
I hope so. I mean, it is a very good spot, and we talked about how good the Northwestern Island on Sanhok actually is if you want to just enable your rotations later on down the line. So, yeah, I mean, it's, I would say, a given position to go for, and I think the TJB has been willing to change their drop locations a lot, so this is the most obvious one, I would say. So, yeah, I would say Camp Alpha, good choice for TJB to go there, and Eastern Stars back normally to Hatin. Don't fight with Game Lord. There's no need for that to happen in the first place.
I do wonder, though, if we'll see TJB just change things up again. I think for me, what's so weird is I'm not used to seeing teams have such drastically different drop locations and to not kind of be settled into like 1 or 2 of them. I know we've had TJB do some splits as well, but I feel like they've just been pretty much everywhere on Sanhok trying to find a position that works for them.
Yeah, causes chaos, not only for them in terms of actually transitioning into the later stages of the game, but also for the other teams around them, because you never, when you get lobbies like this, a lot of teams know the likely suspects that are going to be rotating alongside them, and then because of that, they kind of accommodate for that and maybe even know which compounds that they kind of like, they stop at, and then maybe they continue on or even stop before them. But with TJB being this roaming threat, this ever-present threat here on Sanhok, it does get a little bit sketchy for the rest of these teams.
See, I don't know how I feel about that, because if they were performing well in Sanhok or performing well overall in the tournament, I would say, yeah, that's like a roaming threat that every team has to watch out for. But with the way they're kind of playing, and with all due respect, it's kind of just like a roaming 4 points. If they land near you, you're like, hey, I'm happy. We got 4 points.
Yeah, it might be a roaming 4 points, but if they take even just one player away from you, that drastically reduces your chances at a chicken dinner, right? So, I mean, even that as a threat is still annoying.
Yeah. It's pretty much because of MUERTE also in that game, because the moment they started dropping in Same position and they just lost their main drop location that had so much success for them in the past, then they just like, what do we do now? And I think that even to this day, they haven't had a plan that has found any kind of success. Their plan, I think, was to adapt to lobbies and which positions are open. But even then, there's like that inconsistency that teams sometimes will go for secondary drop locations. Some spots are not free, and it makes it very hard to get some good results every game. So yeah, it's tough, and they need to make some more changes here.
Okay, we'll see if changes will be made here. So we head back into our commentators with John Allen and Blake for our final Sanhok of the day.
We're going into, as you said, the last Sanhok of the day, match number 4. We're going to be taking a look back at the jungle where MUERTE made their mark earlier today in a massive 3v4v4 that they were able to win in about 5 seconds.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they do need that 4th player to be there if they want to make that kind of thing happen. But if you don't have the 4th player, it does get a little bit dicey, especially though Miramar. Kind of unfortunate considering they got so far into the match and did so well. Potentially if that 4th player with English, who has been an absolute star player for the team, they do actually get something done. But one thing to consider about that is even with the 3 players, they do get that far into the game, which speaks volumes to me in terms of, English, great fragger for the team, but doesn't make up that entirety of the team. There is some fantastic players behind him that enable him to do a lot.
Pro League parachute pop. So we head down to the ground that's on the south side. I believe that's XTEAM, if I'm not mistaken. Dropping out early, beg for mercy there on the coastline. All the way down on the south. Everybody else spreading out, going to these drop spots. Where will TJB go? It looks like they're going to go back to a little bit more of a central drop spot. That's what the desk were looking out for. They did not choose to go towards that northwestern island, try and take the space that Big normally occupy.
So TJB, like you said, over on the right-hand side. Hatin, Eastern Stars, Na'Vi, as per usual, they're going to make their crossing down towards the Confluence compound soon. Anyway, Pioneer just firmly keeping a hold on Bootcamp. Did kind of not play in their favor last game because there were so many teams around them, and before they could even make it into the circle, they were shredded just a little bit on their approach. But again, we'll have to look at some of these teams a little bit more in detail, especially now that we have a few other teams coming into the fall with Game Lord and Eastern Stars. Unicorns of Love, that rotation down towards the south side, a little bit less easy to pull off now, especially now that TJB's moved off towards the east and they're no longer in Hatin. It's really not a free eastern rotate, and it's not a free southern rotate either. So for Unicorns of Love, they have to be having a lot of caution in this game, I would say.
Death Machine northeast split again, getting capitalized on. TJB just pick up a point. I feel like this has happened to Death Machine far too often for them to still be doing this. But then again, they are dropping in Picardo every Miramar.
Yeah, absolutely. They still go for this weird split where TJB is pretty happy to pick up at least one of them. Udaya, unfortunately, will drown out in the water there. So Arab Champions down to just 3 as well. Kind of similar tunes that both those teams play, with slightly weird approaches to a lot of these circles. I think we saw Death Machine and Arabian Champions kind of step up just a little bit in phase 1, but I think a lot of these other teams have gotten the practice that they need, the experience that they wanted versus these teams, and now have just slowly started to climb that ladder to success. And unfortunately, Death Machine and Arab Champions have been left behind.
Udaya actually went down in the central river there under a bridge near to players from, I believe, XTEAM as well as NEXUS over near Painan. So potentially just trying to escape the bullets, and the tick damage from the water was just too high. TJB, again, find another Death Machine player, Ultra. They find the angle, they know the tree, waiting for that peek, and it shouldn't matter. Trying to answer with some of these bullets, but TJB, they're moving through. It doesn't matter how well you hold that, without any utility, without any setup, without any backup from your team, you die. And that's exactly what happens to Ultra.
Yeah, so really here we're just seeing the Seagulls from TJB pick apart Death Machine as they're leaving themselves like crumbs around the map for them to pick up. It's very, very sad news for them. TJB, though, happy with their 2 eliminations. Again, this is just... They're just an odd team. It's hard to talk about TJB because when you want to talk about something, you generally want some consistency that you can draw like conclusions from. But for TJB, they are just wild. And even the sample size that we have right now, it doesn't matter because I would say that all the results coming through from TJB are quite anomalous.
Yeah, it's just a little bit wonky, really. Just a little bit strange, abnormal.
I don't like it.
What more they can do, though? You know, it's still just past halfway mark in the tournament overall. There's still time to turn things around.
Maybe. I think they could still definitely get into the finals, but that is something that they should be able to do, considering we have hyped this team up a fair few times before. And again, it's just a case of, we say this every single season, can they make something happen with this new roster, this new kind of fold that they're bringing in that, as per usual, is kind of centered around GK First. But even GK First is having difficulties at the moment. His plays just aren't as neat, aren't as clean. Arabian Champions, on the other hand, is getting rough for them as Shockwave are just slowly pushing on their position, and Arabian Champions, they're losing players left, right, and center.
In comes the duo, the buggy. Careens them on in. The M16 finds Jamaz, and Hamodi now left last player standing. For the squad around the side, easy pickings for Trazen, and they will take down the ARB champions. Eliminated on the west side of Quarry. Taken out the fit. Ain't it?
Okay. I will continue now because
really badly for me. That's the worst one I've had in a long time. Goodness.
Yeah, words have failed you there, unfortunately for yourself. Team Doom looking out over towards XTEAM. Both teams in a very similar spots in terms of the leaderboards at the moment. Quite low, but they're making something happen. Team Doom often feel like, you know, they get one decent fight here and there, but not every game either, and then just careen themselves into a spot where it does become slightly unwinnable for them. And even in that Miramar that we seen just gone, like, it was a case where they got themselves in, didn't really know what to do about it, tossed some smokes down, and then the indecision and the panic just starts to set in for that team, and nothing really is done. And then finally, they make a decision, and it's the case of running across open ground and getting sprayed down by a player, which generally doesn't work out too well for you. MADBULLS, they leave 2 players in Paradise Resort this time, actually scouting a little bit more. They were often just sending immediately down towards the south, more than usual. But this time, just leaving a couple behind, playing it a little bit more safe this round. Game Lord, they move quickly into the warehouses, so a bit more speed from Game Lord today.
That's what we wanted to see. That's what the analyst desk wanted to see. Moving a little bit faster. Well, not quite evident in that first game that we saw from them, but in the game that they were able to just take down, Kalaris was highlighting that he felt that they had moved a little bit faster, so maybe they can repeat that here on Sanhok for the second Sanhok of the day. MADBULLS moving their scouts down south as well. Effect running on into the compound to the junction on their south side of Paradise Resort. 2 players left all the way back up there. Zerek is there for backup if Effect gets into trouble.
I mean, if you look at Game Lord in previous moments where they have been taken down or eliminated or knocked, it has always been in a position where they have been in the disadvantageous spot, right? I think that that's one thing that we need to look at about this team, is that they're not necessarily putting themselves on equal footing for a lot of these teams when it comes to team fights. And that, again, does come into effect because they don't move quick enough. They're not speedy enough to get into positions where they can take those fights toe-to-toe with the other members within this lobby. This time around, though, yeah, I think this is decent from them. Slowly but surely, they will be clearing out some of these spots. Frost has spotted Nightmare. Again, this is going to be one of those taps. He has to hit the initial headshot if he wants to make it happen.
See if he can get it. I'm looking at the map and thinking about Na'Vi, because they dropped for the river crossing and have since completely gone out to the northwest and changed their strategy entirely. I'm not sure about that from Na'Vi. I feel like I don't like what they've done.
I mean, they can wait out for a little bit longer and just play this one safe. It's not necessarily what we usually see, but again, if we take anything from that last game into effect, is that we saw so many teams cramped up around boot camp that confluence crossing actually played to their detriment slightly. I know they got into the final zones, but it was a little bit squeaky for them. And even getting in there was a case of getting naded on the approach, getting shot at and getting slowed down, in which case it was very easy for MUERTE to make the sweep round after finding that very, very good fight between them and your boys NEXUS.
Shockwave spot Pioneer on the southward march. NEXUS was so controlling over the Pioneer crossings before, but have moved away from it this time. That really important compound in the middle is occupied by Pioneer. They did take a knock, but they should be able to get that res. We've seen a lot of teams leverage those buildings right in the middle on that junction south of boot camp to the northeast of Painan to be really, really effective and powerful. Na'Vi trying to make the crossing now on the southeast side, and Tixi gets spotted and kind of shut down there, as Na'Vi may be looking to push in for the backup.
They need it soon, though. Kitsune is really, really far out of the way, and Eastern Stars have yet to make that crossing. They do have Kapahala on the other side, but still in the water, will just be about on the edge. Na'Vi's going to have to play around this backside building because they don't want to reveal themselves to many angles. And Eastern Stars are holding it strong. Keme moves out. This is bad timing.
Not going to be able to stick that res, unfortunately. Kitsune backed off a little bit by sightlines from Eastern Stars. Tixi still down, not res just yet. Keme around the side, finds a second. Peeks out, and Matic, his dust falls away, and Tixi flushed. They played too late, and Na'Vi allowed Eastern Stars to move down this coastline. This was a position that Na'Vi held, and they let it go. I mean, I know you were talking about the cluster around boot camp. We're not seeing it this game, fair enough. It's a little different, hard to read that from that northwestern island. But why do you send off one of the most important positions in the game? I just can't understand that from Na'Vi.
It is really curious. And I mean, I think they expected Eastern Stars to move a lot earlier and maybe not be in this position. In which case, they have suffered for it because of the rotation that Eastern Stars made. Great angle by Kapahala as well, because I think this fight would have gone a lot differently if Kitsune, as well as Meku, could have got down the hill. Unfortunately, they couldn't because Kapahala was holding them out. You saw bullets heading up that way, so they weren't even able to provide pressure down towards Keme, who was holding on what is a very dangerous angle along that side of the wall because you can be spotted from up the hill. But there is no refrag potential there for Meku and Kitsune just because of where Kapahala's holding on the other side of the water. So very well set up from the guys on Eastern Stars to ensure that this does go through these two knocks, and a couple of eliminations, you're never upset with that.
You take those, you get it done. TJB spotted out by the MADBULLS. MADBULLS moving in from the northern side. Unicorns Love are behind them, a little bit further north, but TJB right now suffering. Death Machine have the remaining two players a little bit further to the south of them as well. So there is this north side queue. Game Lord trying to stay out of it a little bit further west, but they will have to get involved fairly soon.
I think for Unicorns Love already took shots earlier from MADBULLS and did lose one of their players, which is kind of unfortunate, but does create this scenario now where they're a little bit afraid to move in. Game Lord also holding on the southwest side. You know, you're really, one of your major plays right now would just be head down towards the eastern side of Quarry and try and cross bridge, but even that is tough because you know that Ruthless Esports plays down there, and this is just a case of how dangerous losing one player can be on Sanhok, because it really does just change how you envision the next couple of minutes to go for your game. Because how do they push south? Because they're worried about taking a fight with another team because 3v4 is just not good for them.
Unless you're MUERTE, in which case 3v4v4 is absolutely fine. It's not a problem. It's like MUERTE are on the side of Painan right now and already taking the fight against Take Aim Gaming. NEXUS have sightlines over to their old stomping ground though, and will slow everything down here.
Striker moving away. Obviously, Take Aim Gaming can hold out the guys from MUERTE, considering they're on the edge of the circle at the moment, with Take Aim going a bit further forward. A single knock would be nice for them to be able to open up the fight from there, or at least open up a little bit of space for them to play around with. Team Doom slowly making their way over. This could be MUERTE's lifeline if they're able to find some knocks over towards Take Aim Gaming. Even so, Team Doom haven't been the most raucous of teams. Take Aim Gaming is similar front though, so it could be the game changer for MUERTE if Team Doom keep heading over this way, but looks like they are now stopping.
Halting that progression. This fight in P9, yeah, just completely shut down for the time being by this Nexus oversight. Nexus on a really powerful hill in the middle. I do like to play these control spots on Sanhok. Pioneer central compound. We spoke about how they got there a little bit earlier and they will look to be holding it out for as long as possible. Teams from the north holding each other off from making that advance. Eastern Stars across Na'Vi with the remaining duo making that swim over the northwestern side, sorry.
They're just about to find their way into the circle now. Ruthless today hasn't been as good as they had hoped it to be. Ulysses, though, I think he's a player that we can talk about really briefly, just because I've been really happy with his performance this tournament. I think for previous tournaments, he has IGL'd and he's kept the team together. And whenever we do interviews with this guy, he's always so happy, so cheerful, and really does, I would say, boost morale for the team massively when he's on their side. But not necessarily always been the best fragger for the team, not always bringing in those clutch moments. I think this tournament, though, in particular, we have seen Ulysses really push the front, right? And he has been taking the initiative, making the push a lot of times for the team. And I think that has been one of the key factors for Ruthless Esports, so they can kind of corral themselves around this one player and make something happen because of it.
For Mercy has the sightlines onto Manu and does get the cut down on him on the outside, and crawling around on the outskirts right now with these sightlines as they are. It's almost a death sentence where it seems like Manu is going to be able to play that one into the shack, into the building, and look for the res. Ruthless Esports trying to stay up at 4, and why would you not on this really, really important part of this game to make this push? It's going to be deadly. They need all of the power they can have.
Get Manu back up again. It's a good thing they do as well, because he has been extremely good when it comes to the off angles, as well as getting initial picks onto enemy teams. With the Esports, though, in a tricky spot now with Death Machine up top side and XTEAM in front of them. XTEAM been very much an issue recently, just holding teams out, even with 4. Death Machine, though, really start out things badly for Ruthless.
Yeah, they do get the trade, but that is a little bit too much. XTEAM actually cutting down Death Machine as well, so not even a point in return. Pioneer prediction from Jason Kaplan. The Eastern Stars for both Maxman and Kalaris, despite Game Lord being right at their back, despite them not really being central, they have sent fast in towards a middle compound now, and the Eastern Stars playing 2-2.
Yeah, with the shift though towards the western side, I mean, it's a decent compound to take. Are happy still causing problems from up top. I think Ruthless Esports just waited a little bit too long and now have been crunched. Manu has to hit these shots and instantly go for the first aid kit afterwards. Roll Kiss does also go down now to MADBULLS, constantly on the backside of them. Just Icy God and Crypto remaining, but it's TJB in front of them as well. Either way, their rotation has been tricky.
Cut down on several sides. A nade from Team Doom gets 2 knocks over towards the Eastern Stars. An X-teamer under fire from Shockwave. A lot of these players on this southeast side. There's 4 teams in this fight, Blank. There's 4 teams potentially in this engagement. Redox moves forwards, looking for the res onto Octavian, but Zero has other ideas, puts that burn down, repositions the players from Nexus. Octavian is re-knocked as well, and Redox pretty soon for it, seemingly. The reload is there from Zero, swings out wide, spots the player around the edge of the smoke, and Redox goes down. There's the flush onto 1. Forces the reload, but Doran's on the swivel, dealing with Shockwave in the meantime. Trazen caught with a nade out, does get sprayed down as well, and Terminus around the side of the tree, tries to swing, but Doran is just two on the ball right now. Shockwave eliminated, gets that first aid. There's a lot of players dead around here. Those boxes should be chock full of meds. Can Doran just sit here and heal out in the zone, let Team Doom run away with it?
Circle shifts up towards Eastern Star's way, and this is really good for them. They hold both sides of the crossing. Again, when MUERTE and TakeAim Gaming start to move up from the south side, that's when they will have to really kick it into the 5th gear. Gamelord playing it slow, though, now. Playing that edge. This is what they were famed for in previous seasons. Na'Vi in Meku. They do have that one player remaining. And again, we've seen so many games on Sanhok where a 4-player team has been absolutely ruined by just a singular player in the midst.
Like Doran didn't manage to get that many meds, actually, from all of those crates around him. Pioneer now having to move with MADBULLS at their north on the flank, with only 2 players, to be fair, but still not ideal. The smoke roads start to be perked on out, but Zerich is spotted and sprayed down. Pioneer able to get the angle. Monkey as well. I believe that's position known. Here's the replay from Doran. Sprays onto Nightmare. At the back there, going a little bit low and looking to fall back for the heal. Pushes into the smoke and swings out wide before Terminus can really get his gun out. There was a nade in hand as well. It was just really well timed by Doran there.
Pioneer's not going to let MADBULLS get lightly into the circle without any kind of fight for this one. Fortunately, Monkey's able to get the first aid off, but more come in, and that should be curtains now for the MADBULLS.
There they go. They will be eliminated. And XTEAM as well going down. At the moment, Pioneer still playing on the northeastern side. Eastern Stars really have so much control over this zone. Look at their positions that the people are trying to move into. There's just no way.
It's going to be really tricky now for Gamelord to make their way across. Doran did a very, very good job. You got to be proud of that guy if you're on NEXUS, to get the 3-piece and then pick up one more before he goes down, getting himself towards the 6th place. Bazzi does get knocked, though. That is bad news, and now there's potential for Gamelord to try and push on this.
That's the worst corner to get knocked on as well, because it draws Kemi away, allows Pioneer to push through. Narvalo will be shut down by Athis. They still have control over the south and the west, but Pioneer now can leverage this position, try and push in, find closer cover. Starts to leapfrog their way forwards. Athis taken out, draws another player to move in for this res. Kapahala shutting down Gamelord, and he's going to break out for it, but Eastern Stars now needing to crawl. Athis, I don't think they can res there. They're going to need to crawl a little bit further. Use that health bar on the bleed out.
Yeah, now it's Pioneer time. The issue is that knock over towards the southwest side, it is a really big problem because they have to move into the circle, and this might just give an angle for Pioneer to maybe pick up some eliminations as they cross the road.
They're into this next zone as well. Dadaev and TakeAim Gaming with Hudge on the south side. Hudge, we saw there, had, I think, about 20 first aids remaining in the back pocket. Those will be going down. Dadaev has been healing for a while as well for MUERTE. Not entirely sure how many meds he has right now either. So we'll see who goes down first out of that. But Eastern Stars versus Pioneer. It's the 2 desk predictions again.
That circle is cruel. The smokes have to come out quickly, and Eastern Stars have to do something about this. It will be a case of Bazzi and Kapahala immediately regrouping with the team, and I think that was the major problem because of that knock onto Bazzi. They weren't able to regroup as soon as they would have liked, and now they're kind of stuck behind this wall. They would have liked to put themselves in a position where they could maybe fight off against Pioneer earlier on, maybe get some knocks as they come through, but now Pioneer is sending themselves into a position where they have a ton of off angles. Keme could be absolutely instrumental here if he can find an initial pick-off, but Izumitsu is watching these angles.
Nice baseline of fire there for Pioneer. Established. The smokes are in. Can Eastern Stars leverage that? Athis, though, crawling forwards. That cook is good. It's right on the money. There's no getting away from that. The flush immediately from Havle. They know there's a position now on the sidelines. And potential for Eastern Stars to put nades back their way. That's right on the mark as well. Eastern Stars get some retribution. Bazzi covering behind that wall, putting these nades out, covering off those off angles as well. A nice nade to slow down that res means that they can keep on going.
to eliminate that sightline from Kapahala now. Drops the Molotov, drops the smoke as well. Havlik out in the blue just a little bit, might have to move himself away. Black-White just sending bullets through into the smoke. Eastern Stars down to 3 players. Pioneer at 4, but not for very long as Havlik does go down.
Getting that knock is crucial. Dadaev is out, which means Take Aim Gaming guaranteed 3rd place. Eastern Stars starting to crawl forwards. They had so much control. Black-White up on that rock is a real problem, and Kapahala finds out all about it. Bazzi and Keme now, the last 2 playing for the Eastern Stars. Pioneer on 3. The rock will be cut off by that blue zone. Keme's crawling forwards. Not going to get spotted on that spray. Black-White not able to land that just yet, but Bazzi does get seen. And Pioneer now 3 versus 1. Keme, the newest addition to the roster, cannot do it either. And Pioneer take it home. They move from that really central compound that they were in for so long. They strike out and they take down a powerful position from the Eastern Stars with the help of those knocks from the other angles.
Yeah, it's a nasty spray coming from Victor onto Bazzi there, which just causes some massive problems for the guys on Eastern Stars because they're not able to regroup across the road. They're not able to set up as soon as they want to. Instead, those smokes, that utility they would have rather used to block off sight lines for Pioneer. You saw how little grenades, how little utility the Eastern Stars had, and if they didn't have to use that to get across the road at that late moment in the game, it could have been so much better for them to actually toss them over towards the back lines of Pioneer, force them to come towards them rather than being able to play the circle so well. Keme still getting 843 damage done that game. It's really, really good stuff. But again, Pioneer, they did absolutely need that circle to come their way. Otherwise, again, that compound is almost unwinnable to push into if you are Eastern Stars.
Yeah, it was a really solid position for the Eastern Stars, but I feel like there were just too many people taking those shots, or maybe they overexposed themselves. They didn't allow the teams on the outside to fight each other quite enough.
Yeah, again, I'll say it again because I do think that Victor spray was the problem. I think they did play against Game Lord perfectly, but it's just that one spray and Bazzi going down that ends up just making the whole thing a big mess. Fortunately, someone who is not a mess and is really clean with it today is Jason on these predictions over at the desk.
Yeah, I believe I've gotten 6 out of the last 7 predictions correct, which means I'm coming pretty swiftly for Kalaris at the moment. When they both predicted Eastern Stars, one thing Kalaris did forget, though, is that Max has guessed incorrectly his last 9 predictions, and we can't go back farther than that to see if he's missed anything before as well. So, yeah, good game for Pioneer. I mean, I can see why you guys picked Eastern Stars. The zone did go on top of them. They
Don't try and sugarcoat it, Jason. Stop it.
You know,
Sorry.
You know, it's funny, Max. We were tied at some point today, weren't we? Or you were one step closer. I think it was at 14. You were at 13.
Yeah, I think you were 1 point ahead because I got the question of the day. After I got the question of the day, still 1 point ahead. But yeah, it's just...
You can't keep getting away with this.
Can I get a point every time my team gets on the podium, please? Like, can we change the rules just for me? I think
you can get a point for having a butt chin. How about that?
What? Okay. Yes. So it's whoa, Pioneer.
Take Aim Gaming in 3rd place, though, with 14 points. I know you mentioned, Max and Kalaris, that for some reason, Tag has been able to do a fantastic job of just healing off here when it comes to Sanhok and squeaking by with some extra points.
Yeah, it's definitely their main strat is to play the heal strat when it comes to Sanhok in particular. It's been working quite a few times. Like, it's still all been consistent, but it does tend to work where they do have analysts in particular go for the heal strat, which is very unusual for me. I think Analyst was one of the top players in like the previous CL play for the CIS region, so I thought that he would be like one of the guys trying to actually frag out for the team, but no, he's trying to do the heal strat for the squad, it seems. And yeah, towards the bottom though, a little bit unfortunate to see some teams going out early in RV, Ruthless.
Let's talk about Na'Vi actually, because we did have them go for a pretty interesting split on that Northwest Island, and then obviously with Eastern Stars failing a certain position, I wanted you to go into that actually.
Yeah, the split that they had obviously comes because Big is not there, right? And then they actually push on up there and try and take as much room as possible. It doesn't really work out that well for this circle, though. If this was any other circle, maybe it would be okay whilst we watch the highlights from this game. But because they needed to make the decent transition across to the other islands, guaranteed based on the circle, it doesn't quite hold a decent anchor, the split that they had. So I would have liked to see them just sit back and do their normal trifecta split. I think it would have been much better for them to be able to move into this game.
You can see how good the transition was too, right? If they did go for that exact rotation, they would be in technically where Eastern Stars were, because we know that Na'Vi, when they play trifecta and they have these type of circles, they tend to go to Bootcamp Hill, then they transition down south or over to the eastern side, depending on where the circle goes. So yeah, I think it would have been good, but because Big is not there, maybe they just sort of like, let's just go for a little bit of a like longer loot phase, and unfortunately that did hurt them in the long run, so it didn't quite work out.
I find it interesting that Eastern Stars went for the trifecta position, though, knowing that Na'Vi's taken it and how many of the last matches. I guess not expecting them to be there or scouting it properly. Either way, they took that position and got a decent result here for them. But you know who got an even better result? Pioneers. Take a look at them a little bit more in depth as they're able to close out the game again and get, I think, the most chicken dinners in a phase than they've ever had.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well for themselves, aren't they? I mean, the compound that they took, we've seen this circle quite regularly when it comes to Sanhok as a whole. I don't mean the last circle, I mean kind of like mid-circles, and it's centering southeast of boot camp, right? And Pioneer always rocks up to this compound and is always holding it down pretty well. So if they're able to do that and then be able to fight out from it as well in a strong fashion as they are, then they know the lay of the land here pretty well. And we've seen so many instances of this circle occur throughout West Europe so far. So very nice to see them get the conversion off it finally.
And also Black White, I think his angle at the end he had on top of that rock was that third-person perspective. It's just like sealing the deal pretty much. Like Eastern Stars, you can't deal with such a good position. So it was pretty much in the bag when he had that position in the first place. And on top of it, Havlikaina also is one of the players that qualified for the Bali LAN event in December. So he's also been able to beat like teams such as Fireflux, some players of Eastern Stars, and also Nexus. So yeah, he's an impressive player, and he was able to make it go pretty far this game.
Yeah, interested to see how he does actually in Bali as well, but we have to see how they do out the rest of this event before then. And then also Eastern Stars, we touched on a little bit here. You talked obviously about it just now, Max. I want to take a look at their player stats actually and see who's been standing out for them. Because we know it's generally always been like Kapahala, Athos as well have been able to do generally well for the team. And then you talked about Keme coming into the roster and what he can bring. But I feel like if we compare him to maybe Crypto for Unicorns of Love, he hasn't been quite unleashed or unlocked just yet within the Eastern Stars roster.
Yeah, I think when you compare it to Crypto does have all that like plethora of experience from different tournaments, different region in particular, right? That helps a lot when you enter into the Western European scene. But yeah, I think Kime from 4 Romanian Boys, he showed some potential, and I think that's why he got picked up here. But I think like he's in his growth arc, if you're in like an anime protagonist kind of situation. He's going to be growing, trying to learn as much as possible with the side of Kapahala, Athos, and Bazi from their experience itself. And yeah, I think this is a player that on the long run, potentially even next year, be even more on top. But he has definitely already stepped up as a player, like in such a small amount of time that is very impressive. So I'm sure it'll be even better as time goes on.
Yeah, exactly. That said, I also have to agree. I think he'll be better as time goes on, because I mean, you're already seeing him being what we see multiple times now. Keme being the clutch guy for Eastern Stars right now, despite not being there for very long. So I mean, I think as time goes on, I think Eastern Stars, if they stick with this roster, does gain strength and might be able to rival for those top spots. But at the moment, yeah, CIS is just absolutely blasting.
They are, and I'm assuming at some point you guys will vote for a CIS team, because that's how I'm winning generally most of my predictions.
It works.
To be perfectly honest with you.
Your correct predictions are CIS, yeah, actually.
Yeah, there's a reason. But you guys obviously learned a little bit more, though, about Eastern Stars with Keme coming to the team and the role he can kind of play within the roster. But if you guys don't know too much about the team, why don't you take a look at this with John Allen. We'll be back here with our final match of the day.
When it comes to selecting the best teams from Western Europe, there are many names with star-spangled rosters. However, there's none that can match the flawless consistency of Eastern Stars that we have seen in the past season. A third place in the league stage, as well as in finals, deserves a round of applause, especially when you see favourites like Gamelord and Big failing to keep up. But the magician who tied it all together in the tricky journey, Octavian, has now left the roster this season, leaving the Eastern Stars with a big void that can't be filled so easily. To make up for his absence, Eastern Stars have picked up Keme from 4 Romanian boys. The rest of the squad remains the same, with Kapahala playing the IGL and flanker, Keme as the entry fragger, Athis playing scout along with Buzzy, and Fury bearing the role of support. Eastern Stars love to lurk around the edges, and with their drop locations like Milta Power, La Bandita and Hatin, they will carry out their pointed strikes with much more precision.
From that left flank, but they don't know where. Excellent cover as TJB take a tumble. They're going to see that go down immediately, and that's probably one of the best case scenarios for them. Zaza now under pressure. There's those hit markers. There's that damage that you're looking for, and they find one more. Excellent play from Eastern Stars, communicating, pinging it out, and now it's just Zombie. They know the players on that left flank, but Octavian falls for it nonetheless, and Zombie now has 2 Eastern Stars to deal with. We know they struggle against Solo, but out wide he goes.
Nevertheless, Eastern Stars has built years of synergy playing on this style, and the departure of Octavian has left the team deep in the process of reconstructing that lost synergy. Octavian was the MVP of the last Western Europe Finals, so who will take up the mantle this time for Eastern Stars? Find out in PMPL Western Europe Fall 2022.
There we go. We're finding out about it now, actually, Blank, because we've got one more game going into the final game of the day. We've got another Erangel on the cards, the final one of the day. Of the 2 that we have on the docket, Eastern Stars do have maybe a little bit more presence than we've seen from them in some of the earlier parts of Phase 2.
I mean, that rotation there was nice, and I mean, we've seen a few more of these games so far where actually Eastern Stars have done well, and I think it's that major point that we made earlier, which was that Athis is somewhat of a problem at the moment for the team. Often he's getting some really good off angles, right, some really good flanks, but I do think that playing with the team often will bring them more success, and it has done so far. So I'm happy with that. I'm pleased to see that they're playing more as a unit than they were before, because that's when they were finding the big money, the big numbers, right? Those big games where they were raking in the placement points, raking in the eliminations, is where they were able to play off one another. And when you've got Athis who just sends out wide, you can't play off of that position.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky. So hopefully they can address some of those flaws. I mean, making rotations as we've seen them do, to try and put themselves in some better positions. But this phase just hasn't really gone super well from them. The first phase, it was okay. They got 214 points, but so far in Phase 2, 102 points. It's not ideal, certainly not what they were looking for. 11th place overall in the overall standings. It will get them to the finals, but it won't net them a lot of those bonus points that are going to see teams like MADBULLS looking pretty safe.
Yeah, you look super healthy going into the finals with those additional bonus points that come from each phase and where you place. And I think for some teams it'd be impossible to catch up to MADBULLS currently on the streak that they are. And I think the most terrifying thing about the MADBULLS is just how many points they are putting up per game and how similar each performance has been to one another. It's just a case you go into the finals, you know that if they have that lead, they're going to maintain that lead. It's unlikely that we ever see MADBULLS drop below a 10th place recently, and we do always consistently see them towards those latter half circles, just purely, even with 2 players or 1 player, they're always there, they're always present, and that is going to be a major issue for some of these teams come finals.
In their first phase, the MADBULLS scored 306 points, Blank. At the moment, they're sat at 226. They're not in this game, so they will be finishing today on 226. There is potential, however, for Unicorns of Love. 3rd place right now with 221, playing in this game to be able to leapfrog that. That's a 5-point difference. If they get a chicken dinner, they're definitely going to surpass that. They currently have 3 chicken dinners, so if they can make up those 5 points anywhere, they would lose on the tiebreak if it's a tie, but 6 points is that threshold to make sure that Unicorns would be in that 1st place spot. Pioneer also similarly in with a chance. 215 for them, sat 11 points behind the MADBULLS.
I think just looking at Unicorns of Love in general, today is probably one of their least favorite days at the moment. They did have some really good games over on Sanhok, but as of recently, you know, that space on the northern side of the circle is getting less and less and less. More and more teams are taking more presence towards that top side of the circle, and we saw this with the Infinity all the way back in the day, where they would take the top spot of the map, and that would work out fantastically well for them. Unfortunately for that team, a similar thing occurred where teams were realizing there was a huge amount of space on the northern side, started to pick up more compounds, and suddenly if you are right on that northern edge of Sanhok, you can't make those same rotations anymore. So Unicorns of Love for today, it's kind of Miramar and Erangel where they can start to pick up some more of these points. And again, Erangel is another map where they sit themselves down towards Novo, and they're right out of the way. It's a decent spot in terms of picking up loot and getting yourself gone quickly, but you do have to have a team that is able to punch through any defense or any walls that are put up between you and getting to the circle. A team that can do that very well is Stalwart, that also plays this position down in Novo. I mean, just having that team on board, Action, Top, Scry, all very, very good at finding those angles early on and then finding a position within the circle after playing Edge for a little while. At the moment, I just don't feel like Unicorns of Love have that same kind of striking power against the punch bag, and that is something that maybe can be improved on in the future. Hopefully Icy and the rest of the team can start to step up to the standards that Crypto has been setting, in which case I do think that Unicorns of Love will start blasting. But 2 days left now of phase 2, and we're already practically done with the second day. We come into tomorrow, they need to make something big happen.
Stars again back in Milta Power. Having to move out northwest to this next circle. The plane pass was very, very south, Blank. It's really quite south, crossing over Primorsk to Milta Power. So Big have managed to make that advance all the way up to Zaverny in time. Pioneer South George, no Na'Vi in this game, which means no North George team right now. Pioneer with one of those shots towards the top spot for the phase ending today. Unicorns of Love also, again, in that conversation in Novo.
With Pioneer on South George, this does give them a load of control over the map as well, purely because they're probably one of the only teams that are right now holding the majority space on the western side of the map. It is a bit awkward for you if you are playing here, because a lot of your sight lines are limited by Everest, right? You can't see through that thing. You'd have to have X-ray on if you wanted to do that. Unfortunately, the players don't have access to such a thing, in which case they are forced to look at a very pretty mountain, but can't see much beyond that. So Pioneer could loot up in South George very easily, head over to crates like they're doing now, and then move up to North George should the circle depend on it, right? So if we head down towards the south, there is an easy south hospital crossing. They could even head up towards Everest, get some scouting done there. So I think for Pioneer, there is a lot of really good options for them going forward. Game Lord, on the other hand, I do want to see another quick movement. Last game, sure, they didn't quite get into the circle, but again, it's one of those positions where they chose the north side, which is fair enough considering their rotational path, but you're running up towards a compound that basically has no cover between it and the walls that Eastern Stars were holding. So I don't feel too bad about Game Lord's last match. I think that's just one of those games where you do the best that you can with what you're given, and they got fairly far with it.
QODEX leaving their initial drop spot to farm. Just moving out a little bit further west. Yanel, that's not how you land a motorbike. Unfortunate. Need to tilt it a little bit further back. Maybe land on the wheels next time as opposed to your shoulders.
About 6 minutes in now. You know, not a lot of teams have gone down as of yet. Death Machine, average limbs at 2.33. It's not looking amazing for them, especially with the average survival time being about 20 minutes, right? So they're getting quite far into these games, but just not transitioning enough of that through to placement points and elimination points. They're not really a team that's on my radar anymore. I think they were one of those teams that looked extremely strong over on Miramar, but here on Erangel, Sanhok, things are just slowly getting away from them. And even on Miramar now, where you're looking at that engagement they take between them and Arab champions, which I don't want to talk about because we're here on Erangel now and I'm away from it. So happy days. Unfortunately, tomorrow I got 2 Miramars to deal with.
Oh no. 2 rounds in the ringer and Picardo. What are they like? It would be such an excellent gift to see one of them go somewhere else, you know?
I would like to see another team drop on it, honestly. I'd like Ruthless Esports to get a bit more aggressive.
TJB would be the team to do it.
Yeah, TJB would definitely. That is a TJB move right there. That's a class eco.
Would not be fun. I mean, it would be basically a coin flip for each player, just whether you survive or not. I imagine you would wipe out at least 50% of the players in that area just by a TJB entering in. It normally happens anyway, I suppose, so.
Yeah, no difference there. Ruthless moved from Pachinki very quickly. I'm always pleased to see these movements. I feel like I'm Ruthless's biggest fan, honestly, throughout all the seasons.
I'm low-key standing Ruthless as well, right now.
Yeah. No, they're a fun team. They're a good team. I like their rise. You know, they're certainly not the best team in the lobby. I think, you know, MADBULLS do look just unbelievably good. I mean, there's other teams like Na'Vi who have their moments as well. But Ruthless, I think it's, again, that steady improvement from season to season. I think we've seen other teams go from one season looking, you know, like a middling team and then suddenly being the best team in the lobby. That's fair enough, and I like those teams as well, but I do like a team that just, you know, slowly chops away at the tree and then finally finds the mark and will lay it low. And that's what I want to see here. You know, the tree's not quite down yet. It's a thick trunk on that bad boy, but Ruthless Esports, they're certainly getting work done regardless.
That's what needs to be done. Trying to get up the PMGC points whenever you can. But if the Eastern Stars can continue to up their game, up the ante, might be a little bit tricky. Team Big finding TJB and getting a knock and a flush. Mickey with the first elimination. Taking a player down from TJB. I think Death Machine dropped in with 3, if I'm not mistaken. And they're going to be playing on the east side of Rostock right now.
Quickly just looping back to PMGC points. The dangerous thing is that because GameLord is starting to play a little bit more, you know, on the ball, on the money, they have shifted themselves up to 1072 PMGC points. Arab champions, again, just struck out of the air. And Ruthless Esports, not that far ahead right now of Eastern Stars, but that's 16 points ahead of them currently. 17, sorry. So they are a little bit ahead of Eastern Stars, but not by much. And again, this is why tomorrow has to be another big day for them, because they need to start catching up just a little bit. But it's starting to seem less and less likely, being 151 points behind of GameLord in terms of PMGC points, unless there's something unbelievable that happens in Phase 3 or even tomorrow.
Grabs another buggy for Nexus Gaming. Over in those Gaka fields, you do need that maneuverability. Treacherous, and there's a lot of teams and a lot of buildings around this area. All looking to move up on that west coast. North side teams currently Big and TJB on the north side of the river. Robs for GameLord did send across the Asnaya Bridge on the eastern side, but they've only got one player on the northern shore. Everybody banking on the south right now on this pretty even split on the circle.
Yeah, there's loads of compounds down here towards the south, so you want to pick up one of these early, and then if you need to move up towards shooting range, towards Severny side, that's when you want to move across the bridge, just because you can find those compounds on that side a little bit easier, and a lot of the times there is a few tree lines that you can play in. On this side of the map, there are some priority compounds that you want to take early on and make sure you can hold them. If you don't, and you let other teams grab them, you're most likely going to be left out in the open, and teams from compounds themselves will take shots down towards you. Poker's making a really, really big rotate away from themselves, down towards Pachinki, checking out who's in that position. Currently, it's held by Unicorns and Love, so some scouting going on right now. And because the circle has been so indecisive with the river still crossing right through the middle, you haven't seen Pioneer make any quite decisive moves as of yet, or definitive spots that they're going to take. So they're just holding to the east side of Crates and haven't gone anywhere too quickly.
Eastern Stars tip into the circle there, just about on the eastern side. GameLord's spread will be scouted and potentially challenged here. It's a little bit of a northern break for the Eastern Stars. Kapahala, the buggy. Athis as well. We're going to scout on foot. They will have seen Victor moving there. Kapahala pulls up on the ridge side. It's a replay on PNL, taking a dive on the motorbike. Didn't take any damage though, so no harm, no foul.
Strong shoulder there. Game Lord look to move over bridge. I'm not sure about this at all. And now they're backfilling onto Eastern Stars, and with the circle hard shifting down towards the southwest. No, I do not like this from Game Lord. This is back to basics for them.
Well, this is the scenario that you were talking about, right? Where people taking up all of these compounds, it's good if you can get one of those early because it's hard to get them later. Now all of the teams that didn't do that on the southwestern side, on those Gatka fields south of Ruins, are going to suffer because they didn't put themselves in that position before. Of course, it is a really hard shift. It's difficult to call that sort of thing, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But it's good to see that that sort of thing really does have an impact in this circle.
Yeah, it's why you saw a lot of these teams not making any big movements early on. Again, if you can get to the top side underneath Everest, it's happy days. These lads, though, like Shockwave, TJB, sure, they have some great spots to shoot down towards players that are further towards the southeast of them, that's southeast of Everest. But teams like Pokers, teams like QODEX, they have central spots right now and are more likely to be in the next circle. So they don't have to make too much noise from their positions. They have to do too much either. And they can kind of really wait for the next circle. Zone 4 is where teams might have to make some drastic movements, some drastic rotations. A lot of teams now coming into the circle. Eastern Stars getting ahead of Game Lord once again. Playing from mill to power is a really bad turn of events, in my opinion. And now Game Lord skirting the circle. Right, probably they are the last team to now enter at this point in time. Despite being in Yasnaya at the beginning, it's a real unfortunate turn of events for them here.
Not ideal, and on 3 players, it's potentially even worse. Big getting up that hill all the way to the top of the ruins there. Turning the vehicle for a quick escape as well, because on the northern side of the circle, it's very likely that you're going to have to leave at some point. I'll tell you what, the one thing this circle does provide is the certainty that it is on the south side of the river. So nobody is playing coin toss on the side of the river that will be playing anymore. Everybody can be confident that it is a south finish.
Yeah, Pioneer was playing that coin toss over towards the edge side of crates and have made that hospital rotation that we were talking about earlier, John. They did take a knock on their way in, so are spotted by Shockwave. However, they are in the circle, albeit not in the best spot in the world, but they have a position to play in. Your real trouble is going to come when you have to rotate away from this spot, because it's either through the fields or you head on the open roads underneath Everest.
First misses the shot there, unfortunately. Coney does go low, but doesn't get knocked. And now TJB's position will be known. Sort of on the northwest edge near the foothills of Everest, where TJB hold. The next circle pops, it's a little bit south.
Quite a lot of the fields in this one, John. So eastern side is going to be where a lot of these teams would like to reside for a little while longer. If you're Nexus, though, you've got a strong compound. You can play in for a little bit longer. Again, it is on the edge. You can see all these teams trying to move through. Game Lord also have eyes on this, and they were able to rotate in somehow, able to swiftly get in on the underside. So they didn't take their chances here, learned their lessons from earlier in the game about being a little bit slow, and instead just to try to Hail Mary it into the center, understanding that they couldn't really do anything else unless they made this happen now.
4 Romanian men, Take Aim Gaming, both very, very close proximity now. Take Aim Gaming with 3 players alive. 4 Romanian men with all 4 of them still going. Stoffy sends on over the ridge, takes a tumble, but stays alive nonetheless. Can park up, control the angles behind them that they need to. ARB could potentially look out this way and take some shots over, but not really going to be doing that just yet. Ruthless taking shots from VIRTUS.PRO on the northeast.
Yeah, a strong compound from Game Lord. Unfortunately, they are 3, so they'll have to battle off against Eastern Stars, who are equally in a tough spot. Nade goes through the top side window. Immediately, they reposition.
This is still there as well on the outside, looking to heal on up as well. There is a nade, underarm. Bazzi gets blown to bits. And Athis now still looking for those heals. Not flushed just yet, but they know there's a player out here. He's jumping on his head. Hang on a minute. You need to be on the swivel. Athis, no. Okay, fair enough. He was busy. I'm not entirely sure about that one, but Game Lord down at 3, have 5 eliminations.
All right, Mario, just goober stomp him, I guess. That works out fine. Get yourself 100 gold coins for that one. Icy finds a shot over towards Death Machine. This is all the way on the eastern side of the circle. We won't quite tune in with that yet. It's TJB versus Big in what is turning out to be a very dirty fight here. Scrappy.
TJB coming out on top as Beast just gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the spray. Nicely done there for Lin to keep TJB alive. Xiao will be resable. GK First still alive. They're on the north side. No one really that close by, but they got fields to cross in the meantime.
NEXUS have to deal with Shockwave, who are kind of lining up for these shots here, but there's still a little bit of potential for third parties to come through. Team Doom have eyes on towards this. Trazen behind the rock quickly. Redox ducks behind the buggy.
Will pop a Molotov back as in goes Terminus on the sidelines. Redox falls. He's spraying onto Doran. Finds that as well. Needs to swap the weapons or reload or something because there's Sarah still going. And in comes Trazen trying to stop this flush. The weapon swap is there. Oh, it's the perfect time for Trazen to pop out the smoke. Gets the flush. Gets the knock. Terminus now is down, but looking for the res. That's your teammate. Watch on out. Redox crawling back towards cover. Not going to be able to give over any more info. Trazen repositions out wide. Drops the smoke. They want to stay at 2.
Yeah, knows he has to immediately get a smoke cover off because the third parties are still coming in thick and fast. Next circle just about to drop on our screens, and we'll see where it goes. That looks like it does head a little bit more towards the north side, just outside the compound held by Game Lord. Luckily for them, they do have a hill up towards their top, which they can play off the back of, but it's practically barren here, other than Arabian champions who are currently holding in one of the only compounds left within the circle. That's Maxman's pick there. We'll see if they can get a second place podium pick, because that would be on brand for Max.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride on the predictions there. VIRTUS.PRO on the northeastern side. Unicorns of Love to the south, Ruthless ahead of them. 3 players for Ruthless. Unicorns of Love, all 3 of them are alive. And VIRTUS.PRO playing with 4, but Old Boy is down. Tricky spot to be sure. The Unicorns of Love, look at her. Got 2 birds with 1 stone here. As Ruthless could be guarded out, VIRTUS.PRO keeping them from mounting us. Proper assault across this road. Rolkis, if he places this nade by the tree, that is going to be curtains. They should know that there's players there. Already picks up 1. Gets that flush onto Salazar as well. Ruthless eliminated. Gonzo picks up the points. The Unicorns pinch a lot of those away, and VIRTUS.PRO don't get anything for it. They did so much damage, and then Unicorns rock up and take the elimination. 6 now on the cards for them.
Yeah, they are punishing the eastern side teams. Trazen from Shockwave still going strong. This lad has really bailed out his team from a fair few nasty scenarios and does get the quick side swipe onto a vehicle passing through. Octavian on the roof reveals himself, and now there's a nade over the top, and Octavian knows he has to leave that spot. He has no longer got that surprise position. Woodson last alive for QODEX. There's so much going on here, and it is VP who are holding themselves within a smoke train, but Unicorns of Love, they're passing over the top. They're going to have to be ready for this one.
Trazen knocks himself, which is unfortunate, given that he's only got 1 teammate. Unicorns of Love, Old Boy putting pressure on them, but doesn't get a knock onto Gonzo. He gets across, gets to be able to heal now as well. Crypto still in it, moving in from the eastern side as nades start to pour on out. Old Boy down again. Gonzo putting utility over towards VIRTUS.PRO. They're expending a lot here, Blank, but it's probably going to be worth it if they can get rid of VIRTUS.PRO.
Yeah, they know they've cleared a lot of teams already. Chulika's going to be a slight issue on this off angle, but he is hugely in the open, but it's a wide angle as well, so something that's maybe not expected here. Now, Unicorns of Love have to be sat back down just slightly, and Rolkis continues to roll through and try and provide some information back to the rest of his team.
Here comes Tulika, doesn't get clipped by the buggy, really unfortunate. Out comes Rolkis, out of the buggy there. It's just Crypto now. MVP candidate, one of the heaviest hitters that we've seen on this Unicorns roster, coming in as the transfer. But not able to save the team. The VIRTUS.PRO squad will take down the Unicorns of Love. They did get enough points to put themselves over the top there. You saw Unicorns of Love getting 7 points. They needed 6 to take first place, but Pioneer are still on the chase. They needed 11 to draw even. Now with 7 there, they will be looking for, I believe, a 13-point game for Pioneer to be able to take this one down, but no, they're out already, I think. They have taken a tumble in the midst of all of that calamity. And that should settle the dust as Unicorns of Love, again, sitting at the top at the end of the day.
Still difficult game there. QODEX was down to just 3 players and VP was holding the front on 2 sides with them fighting against Unicorns and Love. Rollkiss really should have popped out the vehicle earlier and supported the team. As soon as Gonzo goes down there, he needs to just drop out and then start playing backstop. I think monkeying around with a car there was just not a good idea whatsoever. Yeah, sure, you can get the rundown, but equally as much, like, it's just so much more simple to drop up over the top side of the ridge.
Shamaz down on the other side of the tractor, hit the deck, you see the player, drop shot, it's got onto Hamo. You don't get this back up if you're Hamodi. Circle occupied by only this stronghold tractor for the 4 Romanian men. Playing around this cover, dropping the smokes, but as soon as those smokes start to run out, it's teams on the outside like QODEX who could prove to be a real problem for 4 Romanian men.
You can hear the bullets just whizzing past, and they've dropped so many smokes here because it's too easy to take shots underneath the actual tractor itself. Victor goes down. I think Game Lord with QODEX coming in for this crash, they should probably just go for the res here over towards Victor. Try and have 3 players up towards the end game. Shockwave still in this one. Hamodi going down now as well, which leaves them bare. Still, nade's been sent back over towards Game Lord, and this maybe is where they can perhaps pick up Victor, but it's a nade over the top. And now just Akashi remaining with a Molotov in hand. QODEX still dominating the majority of the circle now.
Coming back to form. We've seen the glimmers of the QODEX that we've seen before, but it feels like they're too few and far between. Can they make their dash here? A nade in will find another player from 4 Romanian men as it takes themselves down. It's not maybe the wisest of strategies, but it slows QODEX if nothing else.
Game Lord went out in the midst of all that. It was a self-grenade. He just kind of bombed themselves, but caused some problems. There's no smokes anymore, mate. Get wrecked. You're about to die.
Doesn't look like they've spotted him just yet. Oh, wait, no, they have. Not too sure who took that one, but it was, Money Ken. Solo player, Terminus from Shockwave. Against 4 from QODEX. Has only the 1 grenade. If he can land it right onto PNL, then sure, but a little bit easier said than done. Look at the open ground in front of him that he's got to crawl if he wants to make it. Will, I imagine, see him step up and run for the tree on the front left? No, he's going to stay on the deck. Spotted. Sprayed. And not quite taken down just yet, but with the angles they have available to them, I don't imagine there's enough cover for him. And that's QODEX taking it on home. A really nice control on the north side of the circle for QODEX to take the final chicken dinner of the day.
Good days from MoneyKen as well. He absolutely decimated that position. And again, it's one of those rough ones where I think if Victor didn't go down during that, it gives them a lot more opportunity to reposition and get into a spot potentially where they can actually start to take the fight against QODEX as well as 4 Romanian men. It really wasn't the best of spots for them either, but it is what it is, right? QODEX, though, I don't want to say back on form, but MoneyKen's certainly been doing some bits for them. I think he's been playing some incredibly weird spots recently, which is basically solo play. I know he was like one of the best players on the team by a long shot in phase 1, and he's kind of just taking things into his own hands now and requesting his team follow him. He's like a massive bulldog on a lead, and he is just pulling, and the rest of QODEX have no choice but to be dragged down the pavement with him.
Who were the predictions in that game? I didn't quite keep track of it. Catch them in the middle.
I don't think anyone got it right.
Did anyone predict QODEX?
No, I think everyone got it wrong there. It was bad news bears.
No. Well, either way, we're going to head back over to the desk and check out what is going on over there after the final game of the day.
Another quick, correct prediction out of Jason Kaplan here. Yours truly going with QODEX. Ignore the unicorns of love type that's going to come up because I clearly chose QODEX and the system bugged out and went over to the wrong team. Yeah, I'm trying, but none of us got it. So if I didn't move further behind, it's still a win indeed. But Max, your prediction game, you're 0 for 10 in the last 2 days. Good old Johnny Allen special. Anyways, yeah, of course. I mean, ARB champions technically did get the furthest, but as you can see from our prediction chart here, Giga Chad Kaplan.
Well, you know,
3 points today, 4 yesterday. So if I remember correctly, Matt, our lovely graphics guy, if I can find the message he said, I think Max and I came into phase 2 with 4 points, and you had 11.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Are you trying to make a point off this, Jason? What's the
Point is that Max and I are clearly catching up to you, Kalaris.
That's true.
And your prediction game's getting a little bit weak.
I just didn't want to be last. I don't know why. Now I'm
one of
my
you's
only
catching
goal.
up.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say like.
I thought we were combining our score still, Max. Let's take that. Let's take a look at our match results, though. At 70 points, QODEX got for themselves 26. Now, we haven't seen QODEX really do well since, I want to say, like the first day of play, similar to kind of Game Lord fashion when we had QODEX take 2 chicken dinners for themselves. So nice to see them bounce back finally. Question is, can they, well, of course, do it again tomorrow?
It's not an easy game too for them because they were coming in from the northeastern side, like south of Varins basically, and there were what, like 3-4 teams around them, so it was definitely not an easy given position for them to push it over to the roads. They had to actually fight for it. And the moment they just clear like those 3-4 teams up north, then they have easy access to the high ground position. They go for the widest split, and then when you have as many angles as they did up on that high ground position and it's still playable, then the teams in the fields are pretty much like bare in terms of good spots to fight from. So it was pretty much given at the end.
Yeah, I think I'm going to frame this in terms Max would prefer. Is this the redemption arc in an anime here for QODEX? Are they Shinigami or are they Baka? It remains to be seen here as we continue on. Max, what do you think?
That so much. I hated that. I hated
what do you mean you hated
that. No.
Did you say, are they Shinigami or Baka?
Or are they Baka?
What does that even mean?
What does it mean, Max?
No, it's fine. We'll discuss later. It's fine. There's a little backer player right there. Look at that as well.
Did QODEX pull off a Bankai of unseen proportions?
Stop! I hate this. Blank, please.
What do you mean? We're appealing to your weak nature.
Proud? Did they spirit bomb all over this lobby? We'll never know, Max.
I feel like when my parents watch the cast and they're just like, oh, I really hope Nova Esports going to win. Ooh, they just have no idea what they do. Yes. You're trying out.
My parents have done something similar as well here. As we are like wrapping up the highlights, you can see. I mean, Game Lord, they've had a better day. I think we need to at least reiterate one more time for them because they have looked pretty much non-existent. I'd say for most of the tournament, but it's nice to see them bounce back here. And again, for them, they're playing a game within inside of a game, right? They're trying to stay ahead of Ruthless, stay ahead of Eastern Stars, stay ahead of a couple of other teams to make sure they secure their spot to PMGC. But I think one thing that we'll all agree on is that the team we're currently seeing out of Game Lord, the skill level we're seeing out of them, is not a team that can really compete on an international stage.
Not at present, no. I mean, there has been a better day today. That's great. But there are still roads which they need to travel to be able to get back to their former glory and their former position. And actually, I think it's actually even, this is going to sound awful, I think it's worse than that. I think they need to not only get back to where they were, but they need to level up even further than where they were because the lobby around them has just gotten that much better since previous seasons. So for Game Lord, I think it's going to be a hard time.
I love how Max is smiling, but I'm just waiting to see a tear roll down his face.
Going down.
Smallest violin. Go on.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, at least they had a little bit of a confidence boost right after that win, and as you said, it is currently one of their best days so far. So, like, I hope they can try and continue in that vein of thought and keep making some changes. Of course, like, I had a talk with Robs, and they are willing to make changes. They just need to find what to fix, and unfortunately, no one has the answer. Not us in particular, yes. But yeah, they need to make some changes. I think they're getting to that point slowly. But as you said, the lobby has improved just so much more than previous seasons now that even being able to go back on form would just not be enough. So yeah, they need to go even further and beyond.
You know, I normally, I'd say normally I've recently haven't asked for predictions when it comes to MVP, but I'm going to ask predictions today, and I'm going to give my prediction as well. But I'm going to start off with you, Max, of who you think the MVP of the day is going to be.
I feel like it potentially would be a Na'Vi player, and I think Tixi had 2 really good games, so I think Tixi would be a pretty good bet here.
Kalaris?
I don't have a thought. I don't have a name in mind. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll go for the easy pit choice here. I'm going for MVP of the day. Myself, Jason Kaplan, with his prediction game. It's just been phenomenal. Let's see who our MVP of the day is going to be. Though I'd probably be going with Tixi as well, to be honest, with how he was performing throughout the day. But our MVP, again, very important, $1,000 at the end of the whole event.
Oh, they did have a better day, eh? Look at that.
It's a curveball. Wow.
Who did predict Game Lord to win that one game? Maybe it wasn't Jason after all that was the MVP. Maybe it was little Kalaris. No, it was Victor. He's really good.
Let's see, Kalaris with his 3 correct predictions out of the last 10 matches. Jason Kaplan here with the 6 correct predictions out of the last 10 matches. You know, But it was you. You did pick Game Lord.
I mean,
you could get like 5 points for that.
All right, this is the analysis desk. Let's do some analysis on this. I mean, Jason, you've been a roller coaster. You've been up and down. However, I have been the Mad Bulls, consistent.
Same.
Throughout all
At the bottom.
Max, no, stop.
What are you gonna do?
The two sides of consistency. Doing well and Max, man.
Just like that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Let's take a look at the results from today, though. Remember, yesterday we had all CIS teams taking victories, though today we did not have that happen. Though we did have it come decently close to 3 out of the 5 teams here. We can see Game Lord, QODEX as well coming in at the end. Yeah, again, Game Lord doing well. I think the impressive part, though, is that we see MUERTE 15 eliminations, Na'Vi 15 eliminations, Pioneer 10 eliminations. Like, these teams, when they're getting chicken dinners, are getting a ton of eliminations behind it.
Yeah, it's just how scary those teams from CIS actually are, right? If you give them a really good spot, they're going to be controlling. They're going to make sure that you're not going to be able to contest for that win, right? They're making sure they lock in every single opportunity that win is going to come their way, and hopefully with the eliminations, of course. And yeah, at least good thing for Game Lord, right? They were known in the past as a really good Miramar team. There's 1 Miramar today. You're going to have 2 tomorrow. Potentially they can try and even capitalize on that a little bit more. But yeah, CIS, when they get wins, they're big wins.
And quite honestly, for the rest of the Western Europe teams, I think the fight back has to happen tomorrow. Like, it is getting a little bit out of control. Of course, Unicorns love. #1, fantastic stuff. But we need to see more wins on the board from our usual Western Europe teams from previous seasons to try and combat this oncoming wave that is hitting them, because it is crashing onto the beach right now. And they're not doing anything about it, or not much about it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can even call Unicorns of Love like a full Western European team.
I mean,
it's got Gonzo and Rock is to come back from Moravia. You'll see got yourself also Crypto on top of that from Pakistan. Yeah.
I mean, Unicorns has got their man on the inside, right? In Gonzo, who has been like, oh, all these teams are on the way, man. I've played against these guys quite a lot. You know, let's try and figure this out. So, to be honest, maybe that's paying off in terms of having intel on some of these teams.
Yeah. I think what's impressive, though, is we look back to Phase 1 compared to Phase 2. In Phase 1, we had a massive difference when it came to points overall, right? We had MADBULLS at 306 and VIRTUS.PRO at 268. So that's like a 40-point drop. Then from VIRTUS.PRO to Pioneer, 30-point drop. Here, as we're seeing, it's a, 13-point drop between 1st and 5th place. Like, it's a lot closer at the top, but we're not having one team run away with it anymore.
If anything, that's, I guess, to a degree, what I'm saying about tomorrow, right? In terms of like those Western Europe teams need to fight back and stuff like that. To be fair, there have been little glimpses of fight back, even though all of these teams are getting the wins against them, because it is much closer. There isn't a team that's absolutely running away with it, but there is the potential that one of these teams could still run away with it. Like, I wouldn't put it past a MADBULLS, a Na'Vi to just come out and get 2 or 3 chicken dinners tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, bam, we're in the same situation again, right?
Yeah. Well, as you saw there, by the way, Max, we had Game Lord break top 12, meaning if we did have our Livik match today, they would be participating in it. And that's, again, nice little step up out of them.
Yeah, and I think that Livik match is actually very important when you think about it, because even if you just get, you know, a chicken dinner, you get yourself a top 3 finish, you get those extra points. If you can just climb an extra rank or 2 in your overall rankings, that's an extra point or 2, potentially even 3 if you have a really good result. They're going to be counting straight into the finals, right? So even though it's just one map of Livik, it could still have a pretty nice impact and potentially push them up in the top 8 if they want to qualify in the championship, which I'm pretty sure they want to try and achieve. So they'll give it their best shot. But yeah, it's a pretty important day for them, and hopefully they can follow it up into tomorrow's matches.
Well, speaking about following it up, that will have to be tomorrow as we're into our last day of Phase 2. And then we'll be having one day off and jumping right back in to Phase 3. It's coming down to crunch time here for a lot of these teams. We're going to find out how they're going to do tomorrow, though, with some more PUBG Mobile action.